My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are talking about Stasis, Bone Totem, which is a point-and-click adventure game developed and published by The Brotherhood for PC in 2013.
Yeah, and this episode is special for two reasons. One, executive produced by Jackal All Trades. Thank you, Jackal. Mm-hmm. And it's the first episode of Spooky Month.
Yeah. Excited. My favorite month of the year as far as games go.
Yeah, it is good. It is good for scares. Mm-hmm. It is time for scares and spooks.
Yeah.
Even though we're recording this in September.
Well, of course.
So not quite in the spirit yet, but hopefully you are by the time this reaches you.
Everybody around me has their decorations up already. I was at the grocery store and I saw a car with a bunch of bones all over it. So
that's nice.
Yeah.
We want to get, it's a dumb expense, but we want to get a 12-foot skeleton because we have a big tree in the backyard. We want to drape it over.
Okay.
And like you'd be able to see it from the street, but it really just be for us. It's not really a decoration.
Would it be a year-round skeleton?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna No, I'm not gonna take down a skeleton. Where would I put it?
It's 12 feet tall.
Yeah, it has to live there. But it's just like we just spent a bunch of money on a house, and it's hard to justify. But it is extremely tempting.
Maybe next year.
Yeah. We'll get an off-season one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh man, buy somebody who has regret. Look for them.
Yeah. Or find somebody who died who was 12 feet tall.
Okay, and wait.
Who has regrets? A lot of regrets.
And, we really don't. Take care of that. We really don't have the time to be doing this.
Yeah, I know. This game is long.
It's long.
In this game, you play as a salvage team exploring what appears to be a wrecked oil rig, abandoned after some indeterminate disaster. There's a lot going on underneath the surface, of course.
Yes. If everything was as it appeared, it would be, I don't know, a sim game, sim salvage. Yeah. Those exist. Boat graveyard simulator. This is not one of those. This is a point-and-click adventure. You play this from an isometric perspective, very similar to Sanitarium, a game we've covered in the past.
Yes. And the prequel to this, very specifically, is a Sanitarium-like. Mm-hmm. So there's not a whole lot to the mechanics of this.
Yeah.
Your primary characters are this married couple, which they gave the names Mac and Charlie. So I know it's like the obvious joke, but why would you do that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They should have listened. Like somebody should have told them that Mac and Charlie is that's already a comic duo. Yeah.
Yeah. So in this, Mac is the husband. He has a bionic arm, so he can bend and break things. He has an augmented arm. They each have a unique ability, kind of like a Trine kind of thing almost for adventure games.
Yeah.
Charlie, the wife, is an engineer. She can combine things.
Yes. And they're shortly joined by a third partner, Moses the Smart Bear, a toy animatronic toy that belonged to their deceased daughter. He is this child-sized bear that has been modified to hack things and ends up being the most interesting character in this to me.
Yeah, he's good. The characters in general are pretty good.
Yeah.
I think. I love that this bear is not a cute toy bear.
Oh, it's so horrifying.
It's horrible. It looks like a shaved human.
Yeah.
In some ways. It looks like the shaved Sasquatch from Venture Brothers in some scenes. It's really unfortunate. But yeah, he is a little AI guy.
Yeah.
And the areas the characters explore don't really overlap very much. They spend the majority of their time separated, exploring different zones. But the way that this, the kind of central gimmick to this, if you can call it that, is that they can pass items back and forth through a quantum storage drive. This means, they can just pass items. So inventory is shared by all. You find something in one branch and you use it to solve a puzzle in another.
Yeah. Have it in the notes here. It's like H.R. Giger's Day of the Tentacle, which they name check in an interview that I read. It's a good mechanic to pull.
Yeah. It's a little bit, I wish that everyone just had a literal shared inventory.
Yes.
Rather than having to pass things between each other. It's not a huge deal, but it doesn't, I don't know, it would have been a nice little friction eraser.
At least you don't have to go to a toilet.
That's 100% true.
Each other.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. I'm we're going to talk a lot of sugar about this game. At least I am. I like that there's a ton of stuff that is really good here. I want to get the big bummer out. This game is way too long. The spaces are too huge. Your characters move way too slowly. This is 15 hours long, which is A, longer than a horror game should be, and B, longer than a point and click adventure should be. Yeah. Yeah.
100%. And it's not just, I think every once in a while, whenever we say something is too long, I always feel like somebody wants to contrarian us and just be like, well, the game is as long as it needs to be. There's a bunch of counter arguments to that. And I always feel a little bit like, no, we know. When we say that this is too long, we're not just saying it's longer than we wanted to play it. It's longer than it needs to be for the story it's telling.
Yes.
And stuff. It's not paced super well. Specifically in this game, the big frustration I have is that the story, and I know this is a real Gary complaint, is too complicated by half. There are ideas, like really cool ideas you could fully explore for a horror game, stacked up on top of each other.
Yes.
In this, to where there are kind of like red herrings in this game that I don't necessarily need. I would have preferred a little bit more focus in this, and it would have helped with the length of it. It's not a Vorpal flaw. I think I'm probably a little cooler on this than you are. I like so much of what it's doing. It hit my doesn't need to be a game button.
Okay.
Which is always frustrating. Like I would have preferred this as these concepts in a movie or explored in a different medium.
Yeah.
I'm not super into the puzzles in this. Like they're okay. And I was not feeling embodied by my characters.
Yeah.
In terms of feeling in danger. The horror was not working well because I had an avatar in it. So it just ended up feeling a little bit tedious to move through story-wise, while still also really liking a lot of things, specifically like the visuals and how hard this goes, harder than a lot of games.
Yeah. Because this is sci-fi horror and this is cribbing from Dead Space, there's an awful lot of you need to go to the attic. Well, you go to the attic. I've got bad news about the basement. You get a lot of that, and I think that specifically when you're pacing a game around it, when every single thing is a point of friction and something standing in the way, like down to opening a door.
Yes. It just gets very fatiguing. There's a fatiguing sense that the characters would feel. Like you could make the argument this is good because the characters are getting exhausted exploring this wreck and stuff, but they're also dealing with eldritch terrors and existential religious horror. And that is way more interesting.
Yeah.
Than trying to get past this door. Like I came to resent the puzzles in this a little bit, even the ones that were kind of good, just because I wanted the story to move faster.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to get the reveals quicker and get my questions answered a little bit quicker and spend more time with these characters interacting, because the characters are generally like really good.
Yes.
I think of this.
Yeah. And it just, it felt like there was too much of it. I was really just kind of in my mind pushing this game along like Homer in the cosmic desert. Pushing the turtle along was kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
It's a 5-act thing when it should be a 3-act thing.
100%.
Yeah.
Part of this is because the environments are very detailed. There's a lot to see. This exploration is aided by this ping system, which will highlight all the interactive objects, including objects that just have flavor text. They have to do this because it's too dark. They would not be able to go otherwise. And this is also something where the writing in this flavor text is good. There's just too many things have descriptions. Yeah. Like I think this contributes to the pace thing a little bit myself too.
Yeah. I would set my character to move and then I would mouse over the nodes as they were going, because it would take a very long time to cross a space because your dude's real small and the spaces are very big.
Like in any given room where you might have the most noteworthy feature of it, you're instead reading like 5 or 6 paragraphs of individual details, and that happens for every room as opposed to just like important rooms.
It feels a little bit selling past the close. honestly,
Yes.
because the art itself is actually really good. The descriptions don't. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't really need to be there. I played this on Switch, so I had the small screen.
Mhm.
So sometimes it was a little bit, it was appreciated to have the additional kind of context for what something was. It just kind of contributed to the overall too muchness of it.
Yeah. You also use this ping system when you are up close on an object. This has the sanitarium, first person cut in kind of things, where you're examining something and do most of your puzzle work. Like you
Just
can
about
just,
all.
yeah,
Which I really appreciated. Like I wasn't trying to pixel hunt in the zoomed out
yes,
kind of thing, or trying to figure out how to combine items, which you don't do very much in this game anyway, which I also appreciate.
Yeah.
Generally, you do your puzzle work up close.
Yes.
It's puzzle time.
Yeah. This is not a game where you do any pixel hunting, really. If something is interactable, you press the button and you see that it is highlighted. This is, I think, important because of how detailed the art style is. There's a lot of what could be visual noise that is appreciated detail from a horror perspective, right? But I don't know, conservation.
A nightmare from a chaff, from a conservation of detail perspective.
Yeah. The puzzles are pretty rigorous. I did not expect this to be the case, but there are multiple steps, long chains. There's some code breaking stuff you have to do. I think this is a bit more in the pocket for me than it is for a Gary.
Yeah, I'm a little bit less driven by the puzzle that is how does a machine work?
Yeah.
That's the Myst style puzzle, which I like just fine, but I'm less jazzed by it.
Yeah.
Here I think I would be more into these puzzles in a vacuum if I wasn't compelled by the story and if the experience was a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
Like these puzzles, I don't actually resent them. I grew to resent them though because I wanted to get on with the cool cosmic shit or the metaphysical stuff, the questions it was asking. Like I thought that was neat. Wanted more, less opening doors.
Yeah. But you got to pay attention to stuff, signage, documents, read these PDAs that we're going to talk about where there's a ton of great shit. Yeah. The hint system in this is generous. Doesn't judge you for it or anything. It's just when you're close up on something, it'll ask you, do you want a hint? And it is presented in character, just by the character giving a little bit of an observation.
Yeah, thinking out loud a little bit.
Yeah.
When you pass items between characters, this is the reason why there isn't a shared inventory, basically. It's because they will comment on them in character, and sometimes that can provide additional insight as well. This is not a game where fail states are really a problem. You can die, but you have to really try to die. They're almost like Easter eggs. The game reloads right before your death, and the death scenes are fun and gruesome until the very end, where there's a big Nickelodeon style splat that comes at the screen
that turns into the logo.
Yeah, that turns into the logo. It's literally like one of the most gruesome shit you've ever seen, and then just it's very funny.
Nick.
It's very Nickelodeon.
This is a very aesthetics and narrative heavy game. So this is, we're going to camp out here for just a minute. I think this art is really impressive. Very good body horror. Just that the human body shouldn't do that kind of shit.
The things they do with corpses in this game. Like I was a little worried with when I first started playing it just because of the character models.
Yeah.
Like I don't love, like they're not horrible or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you say Bowsery?
Posery?
Yeah, a little bit. I was like Bowsery, maybe.
No.
But whenever you run upon something that's dead in this, they just go great stuff, and they go really far with it.
Yep.
This is that's not unusual in games, but the amount of like fangorious shit in this is pretty intense.
Yeah.
And genuinely unnerving. Like it is to a purpose.
Yeah. Like one of the first things you see is somebody who gets the eagle torture from the from Midsummer, the lungs pulled out the back. So like,
that's our starting point.
That's our starting point for this.
That's the climax of the body horror in Midsummer.
Is it the most psychologically advanced carbohydrate? Is it the most complex thing when it comes to horror? Not really. I would be lying if I said I wasn't, rubbing my hands together like a sicko.
Oh yeah. Well, they pair it with more complicated things as well.
Yeah.
Like it reminds me, it's like, the craze to put like Cheetos on high end food. Like you're coming for the Cheetos, and then it's just like, oh, the spoilers. Like this Metatron thing is hinting that this guy's entire religion is false, and we never find out.
Yeah.
We don't actually get to know. That's so good. Like he's just like, I'd rather not know. And that's not the point of the game, is not finding out. We don't get to know. Like that shit is great.
Yeah. So though you have the ping system that will tell you whether something is interactable, the level of detail and the darkness, this is a very atmospheric game, does make it difficult to determine what is explorable. So there will be an item, but sometimes the path around to a place is not necessarily apparent, or where you need to click in order for your character to kind of auto path to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is something that's a little bit easier in playing on Switch, just because you can push against the edges. You're just moving your guy around. I also didn't really notice the music in this. I'm sure it's fine. It's Mark Morgan, the Fallout guy through there. Listening to it on review to kind of refresh my memory, I noticed stuff more, but it really fades in the background while playing. Yeah. I think the coolest thing about it is that there are instrument choices for the themes depending on which character you're controlling. That's really neat. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Although when you're playing as Moses, the toy bear, there is a very faint whistle of like nursery rhyme songs that goes on that got under my skin so much.
It's because he's a toy, you see.
Yeah, it's because he's a toy. Yeah. Kind of wrapped up in the audio here is the vocal performance. You know, just the acting that is on display here. Pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. Like everyone kind of starts off as gruff McScavenge and like kind of plucky McTechie. Yeah. And then Bear McStoic, I guess. I don't know. But eventually, there are depths to it. And then they each kind of get a character to bounce off of that they're introduced to as a foil. That is and really helps with that.
Yes.
Give them kind of places to shine. This is bleak. This is not a story for hope. Nope. It's got a lot of like Alien, Prometheus, Ancient Aliens kind of stuff. Story of humanity running up against something they should not have discovered. So, obviously Lovecraft shit. And a lot of this stuff was kind of laid out in the previous two games in this series, specifically this Kane Corporation.
Yeah.
In this, there is a corporation religion together dedicated to its founder, Kane. It said that he killed a god. And they have, because it's a corporation religion, they have an afterlife called the Nexus, where if you get this implant, you will go up to the singularity when you die. Or so everyone is told. And one of the things that I think is kind of cool and subtle about this is that one of your characters is an adherent to this religion and one is not.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not immediately evident. The character doesn't come out and say, well, as a Cainite, I believe this. It comes out kind of slowly and subtly that they're a true believer. And I think a lot of the horror of this comes from that.
Yes.
Doing something with a character who is faithful in a sci-fi setting where the religion is obviously not good, is rare. Having a POV character who actually subscribes to the faith.
Yeah. A little bit less rare is the ridiculously evil corporation. But there's really good detail around this, specifically in the PDAs. So, pretty much every staff member who is present here has a PDA, which you will find next to their corpse. And you read their personal logs and emails and stuff like that. And pretty much every one of these has a really solid dystopian sci-fi horror hook that plays well with the main plot. There were some cool ideas in here.
Yeah, these are really neat. The one weird thing about this, and I don't even know if it's a ding, it's just you don't see it in video games very often, is you read all of them. So imagine when you find somebody in one of these games, you read all of their emails.
Yeah.
Instead of some of them. So your first PDA entry, which I'm expecting to have, a couple pages or something, has 10 or 12 emails on it. It's really strange. And then you find the person they're corresponding with later.
Yes.
Or find the person they mentioned, and there's 10 or 12 emails that they have.
Yeah.
It works. It's not, but in terms of pacing, again, I think it probably contributes a little bit to the sluggishness of this.
Yeah.
Where instead of reading, logs like we're used to in video games, we're reading pretty intense archives.
Yeah.
For video game standards.
You walk into a room and there's 3 PDAs on the ground. It's like, fuck.
Yeah, no, I'm going to read for a while.
I have to focus. Yeah.
Yeah. It's time to do this part of the game. It's got a very modal feeling to it in that way.
Yeah. But it drew me along,
Yeah.
It's just a nice little sampler platter of sci-fi ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to development, it's hard to find a lot of information about what went into this, but there is a developer interview on Tom's Gaming Vault blog that I found. So this is the third game. Like we said, it's the third game in this series created by the Brotherhood, which is a South African studio that is primarily two brothers, Christopher and Nolas Bischoff, I think is how you say that.
Yeah, Nicholas.
Yes.
Yeah. So Christopher handles the art, Nicholas handles the programming, and then they have a kind of handful of other people who are involved. So J. Barton Mitchell, who is the lead writer for this, and Mark Morgan, as we mentioned before, the composer for their games, the Follow guy.
Yes. So the first game is just called Stasis. Began development in 2010. They went from kind of working on subcontracted out stuff to wanting to make their own thing. And then 3 years into development in 2013, they launched a Kickstarter for it, and it was successful.
Mm-hmm. This takes place on an abandoned spaceship. Way before this game, very Event Horizon build. This is incredibly sanitarium. Like everything you can read about this name check sanitarium specifically.
Yes.
And I looked up some footage of it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is sanitarium, except on a spaceship. It did well enough for them to work as game developers full time. This got a free prequel called Cain in 2017 that kind of lays out the backstory of this corporate religion, this character from it. You don't need to play them for this. This is an anthology. It takes place in the same world. There are Easter eggs, but honestly, this stands alone.
Yeah, I did not feel at sea with this.
Yes.
Yeah.
My understanding in reading, people who have played both of them is that this is the more character-driven one. That Stasis is much more bleak and a little bit more like scary sci-fi, but your character is much more of a cipher.
Okay. So. Yeah, I wasn't aware of Cain before I found it. Before I looked at this. Yeah. Knew about Stasis before. So after that, they took a break from horror to make a post-apocalyptic adventure game called Beautiful Desolation. That also did well. And all of this was successful enough for them to ditch Kickstarter and rely just a little bit on their own crowdfunding to get Bone Totem out the door.
Yeah. So because of this, this extra funding, they expanded the cast. To have this kind of Day of the Tentacle inspiration, as we mentioned, along with Sanitarium. And they responded to criticism of their earlier games by adding this ping system, making it clear what's interactive so you don't have to pixel hunt.
Yeah. This game reviewed well, got like a 79 on Metacritic. Can't find information on how it's sold. And that the 79 feels about right.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. As something, the brothers say they have more ideas for stories in this universe. So we maybe haven't seen the last of Mose the Very Smart Bear. So we'll probably see more of this, more things in this world. It's a really rich universe. They came up with a real good source book, basically.
Yeah.
For this background, there are a lot of cool little details about this dystopia specifically.
It's smart.
Yeah,
it was a good decision on their part.
Yeah, it's neat. Let's get into it. This is primarily going to be plot recap stuff because again, there's not a whole lot to the mechanics of this other than, long kind of chains of puzzles.
Yeah. Opens with a quote from Steinbeck. It is so much darker when a light shone out than if it had never shone. And we get this salvage barge navigating out into a storm, tracking this signal to a stationary vessel that turns out to be an oil rig that has gone dark.
Yes. It belongs to the Cain Corporation. So they're doing distress calls and nobody's answering.
Yeah.
And this brings us into chapter 1, Fury on the Waves.
Yeah.
We're starting with kind of our tutorial zone. We're in the living quarters of the salvage ship, kind of attached to this with Mac and Charlie. And
sorry, I'm not going to laugh every time.
I know, it fucking sucks. I wish they hadn't done it. Every time I read it threw me off. It makes me want this game with Mac and Charlie.
Yeah.
Man, it's Always Sunny Telltale game. Made in 2012.
Yeah.
Right around season 8. So that's also spoilers. There's foreshadowing and stuff in this. It might be worth, if you want to play this story and get it yourself, now is the time to offboard.
Yes.
I think we're going to get into stuff. I don't want to be ginger about it. It'd be weird for you to stop this podcast halfway through to start playing it.
Yeah.
But that Steinbeck quote, one of the things it refers to is that they used to have a daughter.
Yes.
You look around, there's evidence they used to have a daughter named Hope.
Right.
A little on the nose, but it's okay.
That's fine. People can be named Hope.
Yes.
So they talk to each other about their plans to evaluate the rig, and we get some technobabble about their quantum storage drives, just the ability to share items back and forth. And we go on to the rig itself, and we find our first PDF left by somebody named Kurt Dog.
One of the things that's funny about the PDFs is how much kind of slang and kind of like low language there is, other than Kurt Dog, contrasting with the genre. Like usually when you have people doing this kind of thing, they're a lot more scientisty, and the portraits. The weird portraits you get on these PDAs of very gaunt, like everyone's gaunt except for one fat guy. And when I say gaunt, I mean like gaunt,
skeletal,
like a Vincent Price scale of 12. Including Kurt Dog. Everyone has these high sunken in cheekbones and they're kind of looking back and forth nervously.
Yeah.
During this.
It's sallow crew.
Very sallow. You must be the sallow to get on this vessel.
And sets the tone right away. He is here working off his mom's medical debt. In this, if your family suffers some kind of accident, you can be sold into debt and basically into debt slavery for this. You're indentured. She's being kept in a debtor's facility and he's here working. And he is taking this medicine that gives him these vivid dreams of being kind of part of a blob.
Yes. This kind of dream thing is going to be kind of a through line through this. These people having these kind of visions and stuff impacted. So there's a quarantine order at some point, and we see 65 personal entries were erased. And I would have liked to have read all of those. The final entry is Kurt Dog praying to Kane for protection.
Yes. Those 65 personal entries were remotely erased.
Yes.
Somebody had been jumping in on the network to get rid of incriminating shit.
Yep.
We learn our character's abilities, breaking and fixing things by fixing up a door's lift, by replacing its broken fuse, so we can get to the generator and power this place up. But the generator is busted. We have bad news about the basement.
Yes. So we have to get some fuel. To get through this, we have to get this tube of rust away. So Charlie can get into the rig itself. The kind of through line in this section in conversation is that Mac doesn't want to do this. This is too dangerous in the best of times. Yeah. And for this whole first kind of act, Mac is going to constantly be saying, let's stop this. And Charlie is pushing on. Yeah. There's a reason behind that, beyond just their personalities. The
reason that's cited initially is not the real reason, but they are in desperate financial straits.
Yeah. They have a huge stack of bills that are not paid, and they need this money. They need this payday. Inside, Charlie finds a body. It's flayed in a ritualistic circle, painted on the floor. This is the first time Mac's like, this sucks. Let's get the fuck out of here. And Mac is right during this entire thing.
Yeah.
Charlie has motivations that are understandable.
Yes. Yeah. But this is the guy who has the ribs open out the back and the lungs kind of pulled out.
Ribs out the hard way.
Yeah. So you've got to look at some symbols on a poster to figure out how to configure the generator. And also you need to set the right fuel mixture. If you do not set the right fuel mixture, if you get the wrong answer for this, when Matt goes to turn on the generator, he will be roasted.
Yes. Yeah. Like real life. One of the ways that puzzles work in this, in terms of kind of rigor, and then also I have mixed feelings about it, is kind of exemplified in this, where you can get that information, but then there are also notes that we can find from Kurt Dog, where there's a lot of, in a standard video game, like you have to insert these values. You'll find these values on a document.
Yeah. In
this game, more than once, those values have been annotated or changed. Or there's later information that's like, actually ignore that, do this.
Yeah.
And I at first I was kind of impressed with that. I think kind of as a symptom of the overall length of the game, it started feeling like just an extra step to a thing, and like less like something that was requiring intuition. Like I stopped feeling smart for noticing it because the operations was the order of operations was read everything, and anything could contribute to this or be part of this quest chain or puzzle chain. It just kind of felt like it was adding more +5, -5 to
Yeah.
an equation a little bit. If that makes sense.
Pro tip for playing this: make liberal use of the print screen.
Yeah.
Because when you find a document or find pretty much anything, a high detail like glimpse of a poster, there's no way to go back and look at it aside from actually physically going back and looking at it.
Yeah, your character doesn't make notes. You need like a cyber eye.
Yes.
In this.
Yeah. But you get the power turned on, and we need to get to the control room next. But the door there is stuck halfway open. It's very narrow, and both Mac and Charlie are too big.
Yes. So Charlie says, "Hey, let's use our super intelligent bear, Moses." And this is where we get that dynamic that Mac does not like Moses the toy, largely because Hope died drowning trying to save this toy. A really tragic thing.
Yes.
Okay. And Moses, you play as Moses in this, and Moses is really interesting. Moses is a toy. It has a naivete to it, and it still acts as if it is a child caretaker. It walks around saying, this is no place for children.
Yeah.
That this is sharp edges can be dangerous.
Says hello to corpses all the time.
Yes.
Not recognizing that they're dead, but also is in extremely complex mourning.
Yes. This is an AI, but it has like bio components as well. This sidesteps the can a robot be human thing to me by basically making the robot human already.
Yeah.
Like it's sentient. Like you don't mourn if you're not sentient.
Right.
It's real. There's no, this is not a toy at all. Like there's no, this not being an artificial intelligence.
Yeah. But yeah, Moses is good. I like him playing off of a character we're going to find later.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. So on the other side of the stuck door, it's a horrible scene. Moses goes into a cafeteria and a kitchen, it's a bloodbath full of these bodies, abandoned, rotting food, and a PDA left by the cook that talks about the rig's doctor doing all kinds of experiment mixing her tissue with things. He suspects her of mixing stuff into the food.
Yep. All kinds of post-apocalyptic. Something went bad here, sci-fi shit.
Yeah.
We had to bypass some spinning fans as Moses, and we had to switch it on and off several times to break it quickly. And Charlie gives Moses permission to hack into this computer. So it kind of gives him his upgrade here to lift the security lockdown. She's modified him, and that is now his special ability. He can crack things.
Yes. And so you turn on the control systems, and you find the dead captain. This is Donald Big D Haskin.
Yep.
Confident. His PDA tells this story about the rig being on this quarantine for several weeks before a hurricane hit. And after that, they couldn't access vital systems. Kane had cut them off from being able to communicate with the outside world.
Yeah, basically they've been left for dead. Yeah, at this point. The one door out of here is barricaded. It has a sentry gun pointed at it, and there's no target data. So it won't fire. We can't use that gun to shoot through the door.
No.
A body that we can find in one of the body bags next to the captain's corpse has a bionic heart in its chest. This is one of the things that is just about this world that the characters don't freak out about, but is really scary and weird. Is that there is this biopunk stuff. There are organs mixed with machinery that people get inserted into themselves. Wetware kind of things put in. And the character's like, oh yeah, cool, heart. Lungs, freestanding lungs, neat.
Just pop those into the QSD, bud.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think touching some lungs would be a bigger deal to me. But
I don't want to see any of it. I don't want to see an organ.
Inside should stay inside.
Agreed.
So you have to separate the heart from its power source. And the sacrificed body that you found before, you could pull out the security implant. You combine those two, power up the security implant, so Charlie can get into an elevator.
Yes. Elevator takes her up to the diving bell bay. There are two bodies here that are just bloody skeletons laid out on tarps. These are great. And you can kind of, like when you touch them, they're interactable points. Our characters are not shy about fucking with the corpses.
Yeah.
There's a medical examination room here as well. And Mac and Charlie figure out this is not an oil rig. This is some kind of research station operating off the grid.
Yeah.
And this diving bell is huge. It is equipped to resist pressures very, very deep.
Yes. You find a PDA that belonged to a biochemist named Kay Elspeth. She feels really isolated out here, and she had suffered some kind of accident. She had injected herself with nanites that she needs to take regular calcium injections, or else they will start corroding her bones. And then perpetually rebuilding the shards into increasingly hideous forms.
Yes. This is kind of what I'm talking about when I say there are a little bit of red herrings
Yes.
in this, because I was like, oh, there's nanites that are making bone monsters.
Yeah.
Bone totem.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And not that I'm against having, it not be that straight of a putt. It just, there's a lot of these things.
Yes.
They all do kind of relate more or less.
Mm-hmm.
She managed to evacuate before the quarantine, though, so she's out. The far end of the lab is sequestered, has this huge carved disc and this ominous-looking bone sarcophagus.
Yeah.
It is ancient. This, predates anything they could have seen. This is very strange.
Yeah. So you use numbers from the doctor's reports to unlock this container holding, it looks like a microwave, is what it looks like, where she has been growing this massive bone marrow. It's called the chimera mass, from samples that were pulled from the sarcophagus. So you're walking around with this big tumor that you have to genetically analyze and then encode onto a disc. This will be targeting data for the Gatling gun.
Yep. So then you pass this over to Moses so he can rig the gun to fire on the door.
Yeah.
This allows Moses to reach this terminal in the diving bell, which can then open all of the bulkheads on the rig.
Yeah.
And this chapter ends because we take Mac to the diving bell. And he still doesn't want to go.
Yeah.
He's trying to convince Charlie not to go, but she's, we need this. We need this. She keeps saying, trust me over and over. Trust me, trust me. Something where I think in a lesser game, there wouldn't be a reveal. To this. These would just kind of be the characters. She has reason behind this. These characters are at least, have hidden motives.
Yeah. The moment when that reveal happens is so good.
It's really good.
She has said something out of pocket, like out of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite good.
Yeah.
The diving bell descends this incredible distance past a huge fucking skull, a huge alien body, as Charlie and Mac are arguing while Moses is just freaking out about the fact that they're in water.
Yeah,
because he's scared of water. That's what caused Hope to drown, and he wouldn't have drowned. You're powerless in the water.
Yes.
He says.
Yeah.
But yeah, they pass this huge alien body and then reach the seafloor where hermit crabs are using human skulls as shells.
Yeah.
Great image. Really cool cutscene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is triggering my Soma shit. Like, oh, terrible things happen at depth. And like, do you think this is as deep as we're going to go? No, we're going to go so much deeper.
It's going to be a lot deeper than that. It's going to be, when we'll get to this kind of at the end, Soma was the main point of comparison thing in my head.
Yeah.
While playing this. And it's interesting to think about them together.
Yes.
In terms of both like strengths and weaknesses kind of for both of them. This brings us to chapter 2, All Calm Beneath.
Yeah. We're at this facility called the Mule. It's like mobile something living environment.
Underwater.
Yeah. So, and we had read about this in some of the PDAs. The system warns us like, hey, you can't leave the diving bell. There is no atmosphere. It hasn't been properly pressurized. But Moses does not need to breathe, so we can send him out.
Yes. So we send him out. There's a vent we need to get through with a dog in it. This is a place where you can die if you keep trying to go in through the dog. Instead, you find this expired tonic paste. There's a futuristic dystopian Omni soda.
It's your bone soda. Yeah.
Yeah. You get some bone soda, Stasis bone soda. And you can get some expired gunk from it and give it to the dog to get the dog off your trail and make it sick.
Dog's not going to be alive for much longer.
Pretty gross.
Yeah. But you get into these vents where the dog is, and it's full of mold.
Yes.
And there's all this like fungal growth, and the atmospheric control computer, where you want to set the environment mixture. It is in this room where someone has died and has been changed by the mold. Like there's this bloom of vegetation growing up out of them.
Yes. I'm like, oh, cool. It's that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kinda. Not really.
Kinda. Like only a little bit, though. Yeah. There's a PDA from an engineer named Bruno who talks about the equipment going missing during the construction of this new entrance. He's the one who brought the dog. Someone tricked him into thinking it was a Pomeranian, a toy Pomeranian, which is very cute. It's actually a big evil dog. And he suffered a depressurization accident that pulled his lungs out of his chest, which is, the ultimate trick.
That is, you can only do it once. That isn't the thing that killed him.
Can you do that again, Cooter? Not for a while.
Oh man, that's not the thing that killed him. It's just the thing that made him vulnerable to dying when this happens.
Yes,
like the ridiculous stuff that people come back from on this, specifically to be put in indentured servitude.
Yeah. Cain will have its bloody measure. 100%.
So you use some information that's posted on signs to set the right atmospheric mixture. One of the panels doesn't have a handle for it, so you have to get creative with it. But you initialize pressurization, and things go wrong. The information was incorrect. It created a differential.
Yep. So the diving bell rig kind of collapses, and the whole facility starts flooding. There's a pressure mismatch, and we're trapped. So as Mac, you bust open the door control panel that Charlie threw into a room with diving suits. And then you're swimming in this flooded room, and you have to do this kind of pattern alignment puzzle that's very video gamey. Which I love these puzzles. Like, I think I like that way of thinking, I like that spatial way of thinking. It's funny. This is the lock in order to open up a maintenance request. For the one hatch that Mac can use to escape.
I need to get approval from my supervisor before this hatch can open.
Exactly. And okay, we'll do some Towers of Hanoi ass shit. It's not quite Towers of Hanoi, but
yeah. And it's just like you're looking at symbols and you have to, look at it sideways or rotate it in your head. Yeah. So Mac gets through and he's into an escape pod bay, and all of the working pods are gone. One had failed to launch and got stuck in the chute. There's someone inside of it, but we can't hear them.
Yes. Again, a really cool thing about this, I like that this is not abandoned. Like, we're going to have characters for them to bounce off of. Making this just abandoned would have been easy. And just tell everything in the past. We can't understand what they're saying, though. They're basically in this game, if you ever don't know what to do, you just hop over to a new person.
There's usually something else to find.
Yeah, you just rotate your people. So you hop over to Charlie, and you can find a diving suit that's halfway repaired. It needs a thruster, and you need to fix its bio lungs. Diving suits in this have organic lungs on them. Scary. And she's just like, oh, it's the bio lungs. Never mind.
I see bio lungs, and I think, oh, that can't be what this is. And then you open up the panel, and it's like lungs with Deus Ex patterns over them.
Yep, very good. One of the things, another thing about how this game tells its story and does its world that I like is that it benefits a lot from not having a POV character.
Yes.
If we had been, somebody was like brought to this world or brought to this future and had to learn about this shit, this would be so clunky with exposition. Instead, the game trusts you to let you figure that stuff out afterwards. Like, the characters don't freak out about bio lungs. You're going to read about bio lungs and basically figure out how this world works in terms of organs and stuff, but the characters don't tell you or talk about it.
No, like, it just leaves you to have your own reaction to it. And living in that dissonance between their reaction and your own is actually pretty sophisticated and satisfying, I think.
It's
would
really
have been
good.
Super easy for them to like say, oh, we've got this little bear, we've got this child who doesn't understand. That's not the case. Like, the things that need to be explained to Moses are things that we know inherently as people.
Yeah, the characters are not sitting around explaining things for the audience's benefit.
Yes.
In this.
So a terminal lets you see some research photos and read all the logs of the dive suit maintenance guy. Charlie can read. Matt Barton. He is an organ transplant product. He has been genetically paired with a very rich man who bought him for spares. To reduce the chance of rejection, he has to live something of a similar lifestyle. So all of these logs are peppered with just descriptions of the crazy. It's basically American Psycho descriptions of food.
Yes. Yeah. And this is, when we say he's a organ transplant product is a proper noun.
Yes.
In this world. This is stuff that was introduced in the prequels. On this idea of what a product is. So, like, to give you an idea for the series, the kind of connections you're going to get, if you had played the prequels, of this, you would know this going into it.
Yes.
Otherwise, you just figure it out through context, though.
Yeah. Product almost always is a synonym for just a kind of person. Like,
yes.
he's a meat bag for somebody else.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But he discovered that Site Alpha, one of the first cane digs in this area, is actually really nearby the mule. Didn't realize that and tried to pilot a UAV out there, but couldn't because of these things that are in the water called scrubbers.
Yes. And then further, in terms of just introducing proper nouns, logs indicate that there was a Newman born there. Newman, and left to die. Numen.
Yeah.
We're going to find out what these are kind of gradually through characters and context and stuff. In this religion, these are essentially angels. These are holy figures.
Yeah.
So it's already kind of a mystery this was left here to die. That is sacrilegious.
Yes.
To one of our characters.
Yeah. So we switch over to Moses, and we can get out of the vents that he is in to reach a stasis pod room. This is a stasis pod room and a surgery where, God, I love this.
And this is great. Fucking put this in my veins.
Yeah. There's a body on the auto dock table, with the robot arms coming down and still doing surgery. It's been doing this laminectomy surgery for so long that the entire midsection is obliterated by these implements just mincing it up.
Something just continuing to do its function well after it needs to is such a horror trope that I love.
It's been going for 4,300 hours, so about 6 months.
Yep. Very good. And the head on the body still moves.
Yes.
Through this. Fucking super good.
Yeah.
This machine can actually do good work, though, and can repair the bio lungs if we can get some cerebrospinal fluid and restore the bay's processing power.
Right.
So we go to the aquarium next door. There's a frozen shark with an explosive harpoon still in its side near here. We take the refrigerant coil from this, have Charlie heat it up with this thruster, and we replace the hot coil. It thaws the shark enough that we get an explosive tipped harpoon.
So very fun. Cool. Just like, hey, Mose, be careful with that. Matt can rip this apart, and it can be made into an improvised explosive to kind of jostle open the door of the stuck escape pod. And when this happens, a huge bug runs by Mac. It's like a blink and you miss it kind of thing.
Yep. We inspect the woman. Now that we've done this, we inspect the body of the woman that was in the pod, and a confused man speaks to us over her radio.
Yeah.
He does not know where he is, and he's speaking in religious terms. I love that he doesn't know where he is. We're going to find out about that. The woman's PDA reveals her to be this researcher named Atlas Moon. Her implants let her jack into the limbic system of the products. So people who have been kind of shanghaied in stasis.
Yeah.
She can hack people. This world is so fucking rich. I want other genres of games in this too. That's some like divine cybermancy shit.
Yep.
There. Yeah.
So
really good.
Yeah.
So she fell in love with one of the subjects who she named Diana and tried to set her free when the quarantine was issued. Saying, she has something growing inside of her. Oh, Cain. Through this. Oh, Christ.
Yes. Yeah. So we go back to the aquarium as Moses, and we find this PDA that belonged to a marine biologist, an incredibly important person.
Yes.
Just a real dirtbag who got everybody killed, pretty much. Tidge Basegand? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, let's just call him Tidge. He was researching this strange microbe that seems to be endemic to the region. There's this one that seems to tear apart and reconstruct DNA. He got some samples off of some lab subjects that came from some place called the Omega Labs.
Yes. He found more of this on this shark, which bit him and put his entire family into debt bondage. So he wants a way out of that. He found a way to turn this thing into a drug. And it connects to this huge well of sense memories when people take it. Yeah. Cain would not buy it, though, so kind of to product test it, he released the substance into the ventilation system.
It's real Stimutax shit from C-Lab?
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's also, this is probably one of the bigger, like, coinky-dinks, kind of cartoony things for somebody to do in this. It's like, this is also, I think, a little bit of, like, this is obviously important that everybody gets the memory drug. That they're going to have in this that makes them still alive even when they have their lungs torn out.
Yeah.
that's obviously very important. Him just kind of releasing into everything would be a plot of a less complicated Dead Space alike.
Yes.
Somebody went mad and released the virus.
Yeah.
That is a minor plot point in this huge pileup of things that add up to Stasis Bone Totem.
Yeah.
In this game.
Like,
I want to, as we're going through this, I'm trying to find a way to articulate exactly what I mean in terms of this having more moving parts than it needs, none of which are actually bad or anything, but it just kind of contributing to a slowness of play.
Yeah.
To it.
Because it seems like you found something of the answer, and it turns out no, this isn't the cause. This is just the thing that led to the quarantine, which held a lot of people in place until the other factors at play here
for the various other causes.
Yes.
And this is the third time we've run into one of those kind of things.
Yeah,
and we're in chapter 2. Like the game just does it a lot.
Yes. But he wanted everybody to see God. His mental state kind of degrades over the course of these. So we use an ID number off of a surgery victim, off of Mr. No Torso, to log into the system that controls the underwater rover. This might be our way out. This rover, and we locate it. It has these coordinates along with the outside pressure and temperature at this depth, which can be used to calibrate the diving suit.
Yep. So we use the spear tip from the harpoon to cut open the blooming body that we've seen, the moss body, the blooming body, and get this cerebral spinal fluid with a syringe. We had to shut down the stasis pods, killing the rest of Deanna's family. In order to get the processing power, we need to have the autodoc fix the lungs.
Everybody is super bummed out as Moses is going in, flipping these people's switches.
Turning everybody off.
They would never have a life again based on the state of the bodies that are in there, but it's still just like, oh yeah, those people are dying.
Yeah. Sad.
So this does get us the fixed lungs, which Charlie can put into the diving suit to get out onto the seafloor, where she moves even slower.
Yes, that is also just a thing that is perpetual in this.
Yeah.
We're kind of in slow. How do you move at a good clip in Crow Country? I haven't played it yet, but we're kind of on slow movement month.
Yeah, you don't really move very slowly. The environments are not like super oversized. You move about as fast as like a Silent Hill character.
Okay. I'm not trying to poison the well or anything like that. I'm just realizing it's been a while since we moved quickly.
Yeah.
And then we got Toonstruck. Like, we're not going to move fast for a little bit.
Yeah, till Diablo.
Yeah. So she gets out of the floor, accesses this maintenance panel using Atlas Moon's acetylene torch. And from here, we can equalize the pressure near Mac. Yeah. So now he can drop into a lower pod with several executed bodies. Their luggage is next door to this. They weren't evacuated at all. They thought they were going to be, and they are not.
Yeah. At some point, Kane sent a clean crew and, took him out. So Charlie, out in the water, finds that the rover is dangling over this cliff from a crane arm. And when you try to access the controls, you see one of these scrubbers up close. And you think, oh, are these going to be nanites? No, they're like little Oddworld, fucked up bio-gremlins.
Yeah. Yeah. And this one fried the motherboard of this thing. And we find this AED that we found we can't dislodge it. The bio gremlin.
Yeah, it doesn't have enough juice to shock it.
Yep. Yeah.
So cutting them back over to Moses, we cut open the last remaining vent cover and we reach the VATs, the VATs. This is the place, it's the processing center for this whole facility. By processing center, I mean a place where these gigantic brains are hooked into machines to do calculations for the place.
Love it.
Yeah.
We can find this PDA belonging to Lake Cabilius. That's not a lake. That's the name of a person. The names in this are a little bit out there. Yep. The organic computing head here reveals that he took this posting to get access to the VAT and implant engram data from his dead partner to bring them back.
Yeah.
But he had to kill it when the quarantine was ordered. To stop this. This is a world in which you can take that kind of data and kind of, copying people exists in this world, or so people think.
Yeah. This is it's foreshadowing here that this is that this is implied to be possible. There is a dead brain in one of the nodes that Moses finds here. It's kind of covered in this plant growth, kind of that mold had gotten here, and the crew, when they first noticed this, they had, wondered like, hey, like, is this a contaminant? Like, what's going on? Why is stuff growing?
Yeah. Using a key card that Mac found, Charlie can access this panel and this ejects a little generator, which powers up the AED, which will knock the scrubber unconscious. The board and circuits are fried, so we need to find another way to access the rover. There's bad news about the basement.
Yes.
Mac finds a tube that will lead to the blister, the structure protecting the original dig site.
Yeah.
And the voice on the radio that he's had here kind of loses it.
Mm-hmm.
The person doesn't know where they're at.
Yeah.
There's this huge sculpture thing at the center, kind of partially excavated, like ancient aliens looking shit.
Yeah. You find something that will be useful for getting the rover, this remote equipment control unit, something that the clean crew had brought in. And there's also a 3D part printer. So we can look at the place where the motherboard was to see the pattern that you need to input to make a new motherboard. And you have to get the materials to do this. So you have to crush up an old motherboard. You have to grab gold teeth from one of the executed corpses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that the game makes you, one of the themes or, standards of the world of this is that people are products and commodities, and the game makes you complicit in that.
Yeah.
Like pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are also harvesting things from people to accomplish your goals.
Yes, because that's just the inputs for the machines to make things work in this.
Yeah, that's how this world works. Like humans are a material,
mm-hmm.
That they get put into things. With the crane moved, Charlie can make the jump to the rover, but she's locked out of the control panel.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have to switch to Moses. We need to decipher some symbols and use the auto dock to remove a tumor from one of the vat brains.
Mm-hmm.
This one, kind of doing this order of operations through it. And this opens up the pathways so Charlie can activate the rover.
And when she does this, we see a screen in a different base, somewhere else. I believe this is the Luna base is where this is. And a new connection was established, and this self-destruct order that was previously stayed can now resume. This blasted out another signal, and the rig above them explodes. So not only did the diving bell go tits up, everything above them has blown up. There's no place to go back to, and it is crashing down on them.
Yes, now they're trapped and there's debris raining down on them. This is what brings us into chapter 3, Story's End.
Mm-hmm.
So we get a brief flashback of Charlie back when Hope was still alive. And after this, she wakes up in the rover.
Yeah.
And the voice says more clearly now that a lot of people died to try to stop that destruction order from going through.
Yeah.
Like you fucked it up.
What have you done? This voice, still unidentified, his portrait, when his dialogue is up, is just this frantic eye. Looking around. Yeah. But he makes us an offer. Says, I know where another rover is. If you find and rescue me, we can talk about it.
Yep, we'll both go.
Yeah.
Outside of the busted rover, we find that we're near this mining rig, digging through this alpha site. The drill, however, needs calibration to finish its work. Nothing works in this fucking thing.
And data. Yeah.
Whenever you recount an adventure game like this, it's fucking ludicrous. Everything it's like somebody carefully reset an escape room to make everything 3 steps away from being able to work. Yeah, it's really silly. In a recounting, it makes it real weird.
It does. Yeah. So Mac is still in the blister, but it is compromised and it is flooding.
Yes.
And the eye voice says, "Hey, you need to go deeper. Like there's no way to go back. You have to go into the temple. There's air there."
Yeah. Yep. So you use this laser from a core sampler that Charlie found, and a lens from an endoscope that Moses found to cut open the door. And this gets Mac into the temple right before the blister collapses. I don't know if there's actually a time limit for this. I assume
They
not.
do a lot of implied time limits in this.
Yes.
There's not any kind of action component to it.
I never hit one,
Yeah.
so I don't know if it's a thing where if you wait long enough, you'll get a non-standard game over.
I was fucking around and taking notes during some of these.
Okay.
If there was a time limit that was in any way operative, I would have hit it.
Right on. Yeah. The walls inside are stone. They're covered with these reliefs of skeletal figures with these misshapen heads. So we're definitely in Ancient Aliens territory.
Yes, looking a little bit like Greys. And we find a log by Dr. Abdulaziz Al-Kabur, the head of archaeological geology here, saying, hey, this structure dates back thousands of years, but there are these water wheels where bones were ground. And when we started looking at the bone dust, the bone dust is from 1650 AD. So this has been operative for a very long time.
There is some time mismatch stuff going on here. The things that we're going to find out, this is, we're getting things from different time zones.
Yes.
Different kind of eras, rather. When Abdulaziz returned to the lab after a while, he found all of the bodies contorted into a tree made of mutated torsos and arms.
Mm-hmm. Show me more of this.
And there's a body we find here being feasted on by this gigantic bug.
Yeah.
We try to cut the bug, but its blood melts the spear tip.
Yeah.
So it's got acid blood. We're really in alien zone.
Yes, we're gonna need to harness some of that acid.
Yes.
The next room is this huge chasm, and the bridge is out. And we have to kind of use this symbol key that we found in order to manipulate a mechanism on the crane. Kind of hitting one symbol and then hitting its opposite, kind of in this rotating order. But the machine can't function because of these restraining bolts. We're going to need to find a way to get that acid in order to dissolve those.
So we use the calibration numbers from Abdulaziz's diary and have Charlie activate the drill, which opens up this cave system with this dead diver in their gear. His PDA reveals him to be Roger Callan, another marine biologist from the initial dig, and he found a living maggot at 20,000 feet down and started feeding it his own blood while he studied it. As you do,
should be in the orientation materials to not do that.
When water madness overtook this entire crew, it was a little bit unclear on the timeline, but everyone got water madness.
Everything's always some kind of madness with you.
It's a mad behavior.
Yeah, but like a living creature, maggot at this, it shouldn't be right.
Shouldn't be. Yeah, that's the scary thing is that there's something keeping this thing alive way past when it should be alive.
Yes.
So during the digs into this temple, things started collapsing, trapping the crew inside the temple. And a message from Kane says they performed a seal and forget procedure on the Newman as a result of repeat violations. So really no good. And again, very strange. This is kind of where the commentary from Mac can kind of start creeping in to this, that's an odd thing to do. Yeah. I don't remember exactly if it's here or kind of the next bit, but around here is when I started getting an idea of what a Newman was.
Yeah.
This kind of a clearer idea of that.
Yeah. I made a note of it, as a result of repeat violations. At this point, it still sounds like a person.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's HR speak for like a justification for terminating somebody.
Yeah. Which is one of the cool things about a corporate religion, treating an angel like a employee.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
The last log that we find that mentions the maggot says like, oh, it's the size of a large dog now. When you're controlling Charlie again, the maggot is still alive, but it's the size of a building now, and it's blocking the tunnel. It's wrapped around it, and if you try and go in, it leads to death. Like it dissolves you. So we got to find a way to kill it.
Yeah, we had to route our way through this shipwreck. So in the captain's quarters of this, we solve this little mastermind puzzle. So on a globe to get to open and get this disinfectant deodorant powder. And at the ship's bow, which is perched right over the maggot, still is structurally unsound. So we need to find a way to break it loose.
Yes.
To destroy the maggot.
Yeah. Moses is still in the ruined vat facility. He has not descended yet. And you inspect the brain that is right next to you, but these skeletal hands, like the fingers kind of reach out and then rip it apart in half from the inside.
Yep.
And this brain beast creature just skedaddles.
Yep. Clap. Please. Yeah. Moses is too scared to go anywhere for a little bit. And what's left of this brain here is this tumorous bed with a single like lactating, spurting breast sticking out of it. We're in existence territory here.
Yep. Yeah. So we go through this newly ripped exit and we find these two AIs, like two holograms. One is like a religious advisor AI and the other is like the corporate pep talk AI. Yeah. Bickering with each other about where meaning is found, either in work or in spiritual rigor.
I love it. It's super good. We've run into a couple of these before.
Yeah.
These kind of kiosk things.
Yeah.
Everything here is on fire. Bad things are happening. We find this bloody vault door here with a bunch of locks on it. This is ludicrous number of locks on it.
Yeah.
And the voice says that it hears Moses, the voice we've been hearing. This is the door to his lab.
Yeah.
So as Moses, we proceed into this artifact storage lab where these huge pieces of another disk. But this one has Soviet Russian lettering around it, introducing yet another piece of the pie, I guess.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, okay, is there some Philadelphia experiment stuff going on here?
Yeah. It's all part of this big time mashup thing, which again has an explanation. I'm not, being clueless about this.
Yeah.
It's just the uncovering of it ends up feeling, I don't know.
It's a basketball game that's like 80% head fakes.
Yes, there are a lot of head fakes going on, and like I understand that like for some people they just eat that shit up.
Yeah,
I know that is a thing that is a big feature to some folk. The feeling of constantly being guessing as a thing, but at some point I start feeling a little bit like made me flinch is not that impressive. Like of course I flinched. You went in my eyes. And if you keep doing it, and I keep doing it. Like the jokes aren't funny told this many times.
Yes,
it had a little bit of a decreased impact for me.
The impressive thing is that it is all reconciled. Like there is an explanation for all of it. It is impressive,
except it's kind of reconciled by like a super material that makes it all work.
Yes.
There's kind of one goo or one substance that has all the properties that would just square all the circles. And it just kind of feels like they made a magical substance that makes it all work. Yeah. And that's why it all works.
Yes.
There are details in it that are more interesting than that, but it just ended up feeling not as impressive as I wanted it to. Whereas like the philosophical stuff that's asking is impressive.
Yeah.
Like I think that's really cool. It just ended up being plot wise not as impressive as I wanted it to be, I guess.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does. So there's a PDA here from an anthropologist who's in charge of these artifacts named Liza Simpson. They traced the way they found this place is they got this distress signal from a wrecked Soviet sub near this site. This is, ridiculous because this takes place hundreds of years after the collapse of the Soviet Union. It mentions 150. This seems way further in the future than that.
Yeah. So there's a patient needed to be stored here, someone who was a victim of this fungal memory drug that we came through that was released into things.
Yeah.
They don't know that. They don't know that's what's happening, but that is the magical substance that makes all the things make sense.
Yeah.
Everything but his brains and nerves wasted away, and he's receiving memories from outside his body the whole time. This is foreshadowing for our guy.
Yes. But just the logs detailing in this Resident Evil fashion, just like, his skin wasted away. The muscles are gone.
There's nothing left of this.
It's just bone and nerve. I love it.
Yeah.
So the brain beast that burst out of the vat is standing between where we need between Moses and where he needs to go. So we've got to figure out a way to trap him, but we don't have what he needs yet.
Yep. So we switch. We switch over to Mac. He uses this hazmat bag that Charlie found on the diver to take the bug's acid. We can then dissolve the restraining bolts on the crane. This makes it tip over and form a bridge. And it collapses once we cross it. Every door is being closed behind us. When we're on the other side, the strange voice identifies himself as Faram. He's trapped in complete darkness. He can only feel his head.
Yeah.
There.
Just in a terrible spot when we're going to find him. So beyond this, we reach the Omega Lab and we find a chamber full of these vivisected bodies. And a security terminal will let us review footage and enhance frames at particular times in order to piece together this 4-digit code.
You get to actually zoom and enhance. It's great.
Yeah.
You unseal the Omega Lab and find that the doorway is clogged with bodies and melted biomass. Whoopsie doodle. You can take a sample of the tissue and calibrate a decontamination procedure that'll clear out all this biomass.
Yeah.
Here.
At least at the door, because you get inside and you find the tree. The body tree. It is this huge it's a tumor column with writhing legs sticking out of it at all angles, and the room, like this, the sound of this is filled with mad, hungry screams, mostly in English.
Everybody who's part of the tumor tree is still alive and cognizant.
Yes.
We are in the wall, the Pillar of Skulls from Torment, or the Wall of the Faithless. We're doing that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And it's just an incredible image. One of the we talked about this early on, but I want to, for people who are doing this vicariously, they really go for it with these images.
Yeah.
This is not stylized or anything. Like, flesh looks like flesh in this. It looks like painful. The things look like what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It rules.
Real Clive Barkery.
Yeah, Clive Barker's a good watchword for this, I think.
Yeah.
So the crew quarters nearby has this pattern that you need to reset the life support over in Moses' place to purge the atmosphere. I like this because, like, the pattern on the panel that Moses needs to do is only a part of the larger pattern that Mac finds. So you have to identify what part it is.
Yeah. One of the rare things where knowledge is going back and forth between the characters.
Yes.
As opposed to objects. So Moses can now get into the imaging room that was once on fire. We find a PDA here that belonged to Slay Priestess 9. This old woman who keeps getting pregnant.
Yeah.
She was studying the dreaming patient infected with these spores, and then she started getting the dreams herself.
Yeah.
The contaminant went airborne, and people think it was a plot by the Yellow Leaf heretics. Lots of nouns coming in here at the end.
Yeah. Here in roughly the middle.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I guess, yeah. What feels like it could be the end.
Yes.
The important gameplay thing is we grab a breast pump from her body and a broken expanding foam canister.
Yeah, the good stuff.
Yes.
So he used this breast pump on the tumor boob to get its milk. I love this. Moses' reaction is, looks like mint soda, tastes like bean curd. No. It's bubbly.
Yeah, don't like that. There's that Tim and Eric thing where they have the breast milk, and one of the things that says low pulp. It's like, no. So we put this in the containment cell to lure the brain beast to it. We had to scare it with its own recorded cries to help with this, and it's automatically trapped.
Yeah.
Charlie can now combine the broken foam can with a valve handle to dislodge the bow of the ship and kill the maggot. But the tunnel it was latched onto is swarming with scrubbers, and they're going to swarm until they find a male. Yeah. They are horny scrubbers.
Yes. I was trying to get to scrubbing Bubbles with that, but couldn't. Those little
Bubbles
mascots.
is chaste.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, they're not going to scrub him.
No. So, back over, I believe this is Mac. Yes. We have to use this inventory toe tag from one of the Soviet bodies. Like, this isn't like a corpse identification. This is literally inventory as an item. And Mac can use this to open up the product storage tubes where one of the bodies is completely overgrown with the fungus. Like, it's latched to the inside of the tube. So when it comes out, like, it's got the stretchy disconnecting lines.
Pizza. Yeah. The cheese stretch.
Yeah.
The embalming fluid in this body allows us to create a flamethrower to deal with this leg tumor that's blocking the exit. The code from the security cameras opens the way. Beyond it is a terminal where we can view images of what appears to be bug and worm-like parasites infesting a human host.
Yeah. And through this door, you find a PDA that belonged to an android assigned to monitor somebody named Gallagher. Gallagher,
too, actually.
Yes.
His brother stepped in for him to make money.
But this is a possible Yellow Leaf saboteur. They figured this person need monitoring, but things went bad, and the android was dragged into something called the well.
Yes. We run into a lift that'll take us down to where Charlie is, but the panel is caged and locked, and the elevator is rigged to this massive hand sculpture.
Yeah.
So it's time to switch characters. We hit a dead end. As Moses, we go into the room where the brain beast was, the specimen analysis room. And we find a PDA belonging to Dr. Drizmian Hairfest.
Maybe?
The chief medical officer, talking about the dreaming patient.
Yeah. As his body was degrading, he didn't feel any pain. And he started speaking Russian. And then after speaking Russian, devolved into kind of this proto-Mayan language that they had to outsource identifying.
Yes.
Nobody alive should know this.
He's speaking languages he doesn't know.
Yes. And the other test subjects are going through the same thing. Not the body dissolving, but the language stuff.
Yep. Yeah. So we recreate an unconscious scrubber from mix and match parts on this imaging machine, and it will retrieve a sample of a proto scrubber.
Yeah.
This is all to get scrubber mate here. Ferrum, while we're doing this, tells us that we'll need to perform some genetic engineering with it. And as Mac, we can take the proto scrubber and an unfertilized egg that Charlie found to this microscope and transfer a sequence of genes from a computer node onto it.
Yeah.
Basically, we're getting a baby male scrubber. Many steps to create life. We get this, and we need to wait for it to mature.
Yeah. Let's pass it around a little bit. Something I want to talk about or ask you is, how is this for color blindness? Because I noticed a preponderance of puzzles that seem to rely on color.
They generally had enough contrast to not be bad.
Okay.
So my general kind of attacked with adventure games is if I get stuck to where I want to see the story more, I'll just look up a solution. I have no pride about that. So there may have been one of these that would have been, I was stuck because it was color related, and I maybe wouldn't have been otherwise, but I didn't notice it.
Okay. Yeah. I was just curious because there are also some puzzles that require listening and identifying sounds that are going to come later. And if I'm going to ding the witness for that, I got to ding this.
I ding this for it because I was trying to play it in bed while my wife was sleeping. And I mostly had a lot of times when I played this, not always because I wanted to listen to the music, but a lot of times had it muted through there. And we get to those and they have to be like, well, I have to stop playing for now.
Yeah.
I know headphones exist. I don't have wired headphones for my Switch.
Right.
It's 2024. I have Bluetooth headphones for other things.
But doing the genetic engineering, we have this matured male scrubber about to be ripped apart by these horny ladies. And the cloud disperses. But you reach the locking port, or the docking port, but it's locked. And the suit in Charlie, or the battery in Charlie's suit is draining fast. We've been getting percentage readouts every time we completed a step of something. We're down to below 5% right now.
Yep. Mac Hasway needs to mix up thermite in the science lab. So aluminum from the diver, rusty plaque from the ship, and the deodorant. And Charlie uses this to break the lock with only 1% of her battery remaining. Yeah. She crawls through these thick fungal tendrils to get inside.
Yeah. So Charlie finds this old diving suit inside of this hallway that she's kind of confined to with some cable clamps. And Moses can use this with a piece of an MRI from the imaging lab to open up this vault door that is keeping Faram's lab closed. And then we see what Faram's up to.
Yeah, we get our reveal of this. Faran is that character we were alluding to before. That was hinted at. He is just a brain and a central nervous system on this crucified skeleton in a pod.
Yeah.
Incredible image. And, for extra super horror, he doesn't know this.
Nope.
God, I love it. Again, you're getting into so much shit with that.
Yes.
But it's one of the scariest things.
And he doesn't believe you. Like, he freaks out and calls Moses a liar, calls all of us liars. Like, no, what you are describing is impossible. It's ludicrous.
We can find his PDA. We find out he was a research assistant. His personal logs document his infection, his descent, and his fragmentation into this.
Yeah.
And Moses and Farron form a little friendship here. Kind of that begins here, which I really like. Moses gives him a little pep talk.
Yes.
About this. While there's life, there's hope. And he tells us where the other rover is.
Yeah.
In exchange for this. It's in this recycling bay that's near where Charlie is.
Right. So we modify the toe tag inventory card. We've got to get over there. And because Moses is an object, he can just get into this rapid transport pod. You have to tell it that it is scrap metal, and you have to route it to the recycling center. And Moses is going to be out of the equation for a while as he's on an amazing tube ride.
Yeah, he gets to be in the tram.
Yeah.
For this, so their characters can catch up. As Mac, we cut open the cover on the lift control and enter the grid code that's on this attached note here. This lets us descend in this weird glass orb elevator.
Yeah.
Here. And now Mac has his flashback. Everyone's getting a flashback.
Yeah.
He's in the apartment. Hope has just been accepted into 5th grade, and he gets a call. It's Charlie breaking the news of Hope's death.
Yes.
So very sad. I can imagine this game hitting pretty hard, harder if you have kids.
Yes.
And extra super hard if you've lost a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that like that stuff doesn't work on me. Like I can imagine what it'd be like. But I imagine if you had more mirror neurons for losing a kid, I can imagine this hitting really hard.
Yeah. There's kind of a refrain for all of these flashbacks. At some point in each of them, somebody says, all you need to do is blink, kind of talking about the passage of time, just like, oh, this thing is gone just in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sad.
So the elevator stopped halfway down. It got caught. Where those bone grinding water wheels are. The brake has seized up, and water from the stuck water wheel is blocking the shaft. So we need to address those.
Yep. We find another PDA here on the floor. This would belong to Keita Yamada from Pharmaceuticals. He took this assignment thinking there was a way to get his daughter back. Yeah. And after Bessaragand released the PS-139 and the evac was ordered, he went deeper into the ruins to try to find her.
Yes. PS-139 is the hallucinogen.
Yes.
That it's the memory drug that Tidge found. Yeah.
Yeah. And at this point I was starting to, I was like, oh, they're speaking Russian because the memory drug is attaching memories to each other. People are getting memories they don't have.
Yeah.
So he did it. He managed to find her, but they got stuck. They're starving, and something started hunting them down one by one and grinding their bones on the wheels. An ogre was about.
Yep. He needed to make his bread.
Yeah. Yeah, he grinds their bones to make his bread.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect the late fantasy reveal of this, but this is about an ogre.
Yes.
They could just call it Stasis Ogre and save us all a bunch of time. All of these, we were talking about red herrings. I would take it to just be a big ogre at the bottom.
God. Man, I now want Stasis Ogre.
I want a sea ogre horror game.
Oh my gosh. So this huge water wheel chamber, off in one corner of it, there's this dais where these sacrifices are, these bodies that have their skin flayed open and stretched from chairs to picture frames.
Yeah.
Kind of arranged in a circle. Just like whoever did this is making art in the medium of human bodies.
Yes. Similar, we've seen ritual bodies this whole time.
Yes.
We're seeing this is a huge preponderance of them.
Yeah.
When Mac remarks on this, his eyes roll back in his head and he says something in a different voice. He doesn't know what happened. Nobody else heard it. It's just him.
Yeah. There's a PDA here belonging to Dave Gallagher, the guy who had the android assigned. Turns out he is a Yellow Leaf infiltrator, this heretic sect. And just because he opposes the Canaanites does not mean he isn't a dick.
No, yeah, he's also an asshole. Is this the Yellow Leaf is a separatist, non-augmented movement that had this terraforming tech stolen from them by Cain, and hold a grudge. He was loading secret intel into the android, information that helped Yellow Leaf get back on top. And given that the android was yanked into the well, that was for nothing.
No, yeah.
So he knew he was being shadowed.
Yes.
Next to the bone grinder, we find another PDA. This is from Liam James, a botanist, who is another Yellow Leaf infiltrator. He has an eidetic memory implant, which makes the induced dreams indistinguishable from reality.
God,
that's great.
That is so good.
Yeah, that's really good. The idea of getting the cyber upgrade.
Like
that's literally a thing you can get in Shadowrun. And playing that for horror because of this, that's very good.
That just that very specific interaction, because I remember everything, even in these dreams, everything is blending together.
Yeah, really like that.
He got trapped down here during the quarantine and descended into paranoia and cannibalism, while his partner Colin was trying to tunnel out of this place with a jawbone.
The door to the stuck water wheels mechanism is broken. The motor is spinning freely, but it's not connected to anything. So we swap to Charlie. As Charlie, we go deeper into this ruin, and this is a big turn for the plot. She starts shouting for somebody named Caliban. Farron mentions he knows the name, but this is the first we've heard of it.
Yeah.
Really good.
And Charlie, Mac's like, well, what are you talking about? Who's Caliban? Charlie says, oh, it's who we came here to find.
Yeah. Whoa. She admits, they didn't stumble on this. She knew exactly where to look.
Yeah.
And she didn't tell Mac because he wouldn't have said yes to the deal. And she keeps saying, trust me. This will all make sense in the end. This will be worth it. I promise.
Yeah.
And, they are fathoms deep past many, many corpse towers and sculptures.
Yeah.
Like they've gone real deep at this point. So for it to be worth it, has to be a big payday.
It has to be a big payday.
Chalupa Supreme.
Yeah. Mac feels betrayed. And
rightfully fucking so.
Yeah. And
this is a huge violation.
And is furious that she deceived him and herself into this seemingly inescapable, horrifying situation.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So she gets to a clean room lab, and we find a PDA belonging to Aaron Feinstein's Skullwalker.
I lost my fucking mind about this. They're naming them as jokes.
Yeah.
Like they keep getting sillier as you go. And I understand it's the future. I think what they're trying to do is like names change.
Yes.
We're still naming characters after It's Always Sunny characters, but the further you get into high society, the weirder the names get, I suppose.
I guess.
They could have just stopped with Aaron Feinstein. You need to add Skullwalker to it. Like, it's a cool name, but it's also like Thulsa Doom's right-hand man. It doesn't sound real at all.
Oh, gosh. He's this professor of ancient history who is down here to analyze the artifacts. He believes this place was built by a pre-Olmec society. We didn't say, but this facility is off of the west coast of South America. It's kind of by Peru.
Yeah.
But this pre-Olmec society called Zeb Hanal. Just nobody knew what this was. It was just mentioned in these carvings in Tenochtitlan.
Yeah. He seems really fixated on this colleague named Pandoria.
Yeah.
Which could be really, really transparent, depending on what happened with that. Pandoria's box. When we try to open this locked door out of the lab, a brain talks to us on the radio. Out of nowhere. The door will remain locked until I'm satisfied, with a very scary low voice. Here. This is Caliban. Caliban is one of the 9 Cain AIs, which are these Newmen.
Yeah.
And this religion, basically holy figures, these AIs that keep the religion going. And at this point, we've picked up little bits that Mac is religious. This is such a cool moment for him from a character perspective.
Yeah.
To have him be, it's like one of my favorite arcs in the game is him being disillusioned with this shit.
Yes.
Being confronted with the actual characters and components of your religion, and finding them to be not just like evil, like you might in say like, a Final Fantasy game, but to be a complicated scam.
Yeah.
On you and self-serving.
Yes.
Human. In this way, it's really good.
Yeah, it's kind of an inverse like Saul moment a little bit.
Yeah,
like exposure to the angel does not rebirth him as a newly devout person. It is his religion. I was about to say it doesn't survive exposure to this. He chooses to hold on to it. Which I think is an unexpected and good decision.
Really human for the circumstance he's in, the kind of emotional battery he's been dealing with.
Yeah. So Caliban says, go back to the entrance to this place. That is where I am. And he reveals, I found a way to contact the surface. I found this rogue signal, this frequency to contact Yellowleaf. And he wants to destroy Cain. Yellowleaf wants to destroy Cain. It's like basically one of the angels is defecting falling from
Yes.
grace, if you will.
Yeah.
And
Mac is very upset by this. It's like meeting Gabriel and being like, hey, let's go fuck up Christ's house.
Yeah. And his non-believer wife, led him on this mission to aid the fall of Satan.
Yes, basically. So we solve a puzzle in this maintenance panel, selecting modules that load up to exactly 250 exabytes. And it reveals Caliban, who is this pulsating mass inside this degrading stem container.
Yeah.
It needs a new body. And so we need to find a device that will transfer his engram.
Yes. It's a stem container. That's just a proper noun. Like it's just biological tissue container kind of thing.
Yeah.
So by this point, Moses has reached the recycling center where stuff is dormant right now. We need to restore the power. There's a PDF belonging to a maintenance worker named Christian who has terrible skin damage all over her, but she is being denied skin grafts until the damage reaches 85%. The company has determined that a worker can be productive up to that point.
With 16% skin.
Yes.
That's so low.
That's way lower than you want. That's not good.
Yeah. Not good.
But she is purposefully like taking on risky stuff and making mistakes, quote unquote, in order to get that damage up so that she can get the graft. Like it doesn't matter if it puts her into, debt. She just wants to live not in horrible pain.
Skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all want skin.
Yeah.
She talks about the staff using these underwater drones for races and how they wasted the good parts for this to do it. She was working on a UAV and there's a stem in it, this bio module thing. It's in the next room and it's the one that Farron told us about. But it's in horrible condition. It's not going to get us out of here.
Womp, womp. No way to get back to the surface.
Not the stem. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So, we're going to have to find another way back up. Those UAV races, little drones here, those were being organized by Robert Plasma Wasp Follis.
Yeah. That looks like it'd be the credits of a Commodore 64 game.
It does.
Doesn't it? That person programmed, Milo's Holiday.
Uh-huh.
Or whatever, this like isometric game about a bear that like dodges spikes.
Oh man, he's doing autographs at QuakeCon.
Yeah.
But his logs reveal he was running the drone racing, specifically organizing the gambling around it in order to pay off his debts faster.
Yep. And he's the one who lifted the anti-breeding protocols on the scrubbers.
Yes.
In order to make enough power for the UAV, but they escaped in a crash. That's why we had the scrubber.
Yes.
Stuff.
Yeah. There's a small drone that Moses can fit inside. This is the one that has the stem, but one of its propellers is broken and the launch tube is clogged. But there is a usable stem in the back under this grate. We just need to find a way to open it.
Yep. So we use some pneumatics from this discarded synthetic arm and a rib spreader from one of the sacrifices. And we use this to rip open the metal cage and get the stem.
Yeah.
So Mac can then use a biotech workstation to transfer Caliban into the fresh stem. He has to input the right 9-digit code to earn by copying the first 3 digits from the UAV, a partial code on Caliban's original housing unit, and the numbers from a card that Charlie found.
Yeah. I liked this puzzle. Trying to reconcile these disparate pieces of information. Yeah. So the transfer is done, and Caliban starts speaking more clearly now. His housing is, the integrity is restored, and he demands that Charlie integrate him into her plug suit.
Yes.
There's the implants that she has. This would be a permanent bond, and Mac seems kind of pissed that this like tremendous honor is going to her and not him.
He's pissed off and she's like an unbeliever.
Yes.
It kind of makes sense.
Yes.
There. It seems like a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's also a permanent thing that's going to happen to his wife. Like there's a lot that he's going through at this point.
Yeah. He's like, people give up everything in their lives to be bonded to these things.
Yes.
And he asks like, what is all of this about? Caliban had contacted Yellowleaf and they figured out that they had people they could get here, the salvage crew. Yellowleaf is holding leverage over them. Yellowleaf has used this technology to bring hope back for them. Their daughter is alive again.
Yeah, they stuck her engrams in a clone, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And Mac is furious about this.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
he
just a
doesn't buy
copy.
it. That
Like, you've
it just
thrown
be a
everything away
copy.
for a copy. Yeah.
Yep. And because we'll do this, we're going to be hunted everywhere we go.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting on the wrong side of the God corporation of this world. You know, for this rough stuff.
Yeah. Charlie integrates Caliban, plugs him into her forearm and starts just like plays a recording. Like, here's proof. It's this recording that Yellow Leaf sent along. They've already cloned her. She has her memories, and this doctor is talking to her, asking like, well, what's the last thing you remember? You're like, oh, Moses is in trouble. And then I remember water. And then she starts getting freaked out. And Max says, don't you ever play that to me again.
Yeah.
This is devastating.
Yeah. Why would you do this? Very different ways of handling this kind of grief.
Yeah.
Different kinds of like denial, really.
Mm-hmm.
So Caliban opens the door that was confining Charlie to part of the Alpha base. And she finds this stone disc calendar here used to determine the date for human sacrifices.
Yeah.
Past this is a mural of tattoos on flayed human skin. Good.
Mm-hmm.
And Caliban confirms the translation. This place belongs to the Z-Panal, long thought extinct, but they're still around. One of the little ticks with Caliban that I like is that Caliban is a predicting machine.
Uh-huh.
He predicts the odds of things being true.
Yeah.
And you'll get a little percentages, like when you ask him to guess something or to ask him a question, he'll collate the data and give you the odds of it being correct.
And just like, oh, you have a 64% chance of surviving. I am Newman.
Yes. It's real good.
Just ending stuff with I am Newman is great. That word again is colonized, just like Mac and Charlie are.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh well. But this continues. There are several of these murals. So the Zip-Hanal, their island sank. But their cities were caught in these air pockets, so they didn't die immediately. But instead, they ran across this kind of carnivorous plant that had these spores that mutated very rapidly in this environment. This is the substance that was discovered, turned into the memory drug. The culture, the Z-Panal called the Veles, the contaminant. And this started this rapid mutation because it started rewriting people's DNA. It mutated their bugs to make them huge. And that's what they lived off of eating. Like, basically all of their economy is built around these bugs that they can grow super big and super fast.
Yeah. They have this stuff that makes things continue to be alive and grow.
Yes.
And their plan is to ascend back to the surface and take revenge on the old gods. They found new gods, ones that they could, they temporarily could not have been exposed to down here. So recapping the plot at this point, these ancient kind of Mayan adjacent, pre-Mayan society here has been down here forever. And the reason why there are all these sacrifices here is because they're doing them.
Yes.
They are still stuck in their ritual sacrifice thing hundreds and hundreds of years after they should be dead.
Yes.
Trying to make it to the surface to wipe out humanity.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need a threat of ancient Mayans from underwater to come back and wipe out humanity.
No.
All these things seem like a threat to me. Everything. And again, it's one of these things where I keep pointing it out. I'm not trying to harp on it too much, but the personal stories in this are much stronger to me than the plot.
Yes.
Like, the actual concepts of the plot are cool.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of this ancient Mayan society who is actually lost down here for a while. You could do a fun kind of exploitation.
It's
trash horror about that.
You could do a trash horror that's like The Descent. There's kind of an aspect of that. Yeah, that
would be really fun. You could do one about this this fungus that makes everybody share dreams and memories. Mm-hmm. You could do one about these ever-growing superbugs. You could do one about all the stuff that's just canonical. Mm-hmm. You can do the stuff with Cain, and the Newman. All of these things are fine horror premises.
Yeah,
they're just all on top of each other.
Yeah, the plate's too busy.
Yeah, it's a little too busy. There are too many things on this plate. It's like ordering it's a finer food example, but it's like ordering the KFC bucket or something. Give me the trough or whatever that gives you one of everything. It's like a Jack in the Box menu.
Yeah. Oh God, that's a really good way to put it.
It's just a little bit nightmare. Like, why does this come with tacos? That's not a side. It's got that feeling to it.
Yeah.
you know? And it sucks because this is in the story, like, and we're not at the end. It feels like we should be at the end based on like all these revelations, but we still got stuff going.
Yes.
This is where it gets interesting to me character-wise. This idea of this couple, one of them going behind the other's back to do something ostensibly very kind and necessary, but as an expression of both of their kind of reactions to grief. That really works for me.
Yeah.
And you add in this faith component, it's really interesting.
Yes.
Caliban's a really interesting character. Like, it's a really charismatic, fun to listen to, menacing performance, and a really scary thing to be carrying around with you.
Yes. Inseparable from you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really neat. Like, all that stuff is super fucking cool.
Yeah.
It's just like, but now the Mayans are going to try to come up from the sea and kill people. And I'm like, well, fuck, man,
just
okay.
Like that, like those stakes are kind of like that. That's just that's background actually for this, and again, no individual component of this is like super horrible. It's just kind of a stop, he's already dead kind of thing.
Yes.
Like
none of it is poorly handled or poorly written.
Yeah.
In here, like none of it is a non-starter. It's too many starters.
Yes.
And it contributed. The other reason why I'm bringing this up here is this is around where that tension of me being ready to be done with the experience in terms of how much new information I was taking. Like, I was ready for the game to climax at this point.
Yeah.
We're not there yet. We still have to see ancient Russian Captain Super Christ.
Yeah.
We have another important character to meet through this.
I want to liken this kind of thing to an experience. So, like in an amusement park, when you are waiting in line, right? And you're outside, you're going around the ropes or whatever, and you get to the door and you think, all right, cool, we're going to get inside this attraction and we're going to get up here. And you go through the door, and then no, the line's not done. You just gone into the inside portion of the line. There's more line.
The other portion of the line.
Yeah. Is a little bit what it feels like when
with
it gives us more.
With the line being entertaining.
Yes.
Like, a better line to that. But I need to get, it's all fireworks factory. Like, weirdly, the actual climax of this story isn't my favorite thing in the world.
No.
What happens to these characters. It's just the questions it's kind of asking with this interesting backdrop. It's a little fatiguing.
Yeah.
It's what makes this like a 7 out of 10 as opposed to like, a 9 out of 10. I feel like at half the length with a little bit more focus, this would have been a great game.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think it quite gets there just because of this bloat.
Yeah. It's ending fatigue. Like we learned what this is, and we've got a whole other puzzle, like 2 whole other puzzle vestibules to get to, like hub areas. Yeah. Yeah.
Not puzzles, whole areas full of these little puzzles that are all going to have the exact same density of like every door you get to has 2 things wrong with it.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. Like, even if the content is not, it's a real dose makes the poison game. Too many things that are good, serviceable plus, are good or better, but altogether, like, it just becomes, it fucks with stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
So down here along the murals, you find the PDA that belongs to Pandoria, the guy that Skullwalker was into.
Yes.
She has a horrifying story. She's a full body transplant. Her father forced her into doing this, into having her consciousness transferred into a donor, because she failed to live up to his expectations in her first life. And the host is fighting her.
Yeah. Cool Dexter Ward shit.
Yeah.
Additionally, Skullwalker's obsession with her became violent when exposed to the Velas, when he got the sea madness drug.
Yeah.
Moss. The way forward is opened by a gong here, but the hammer mechanism is broken. There's a body strapped to the gong and weird bagpipes stuffed into its torso.
Yeah.
Great. Pressing the mechanisms on the skin murals here gets us part of this calendar, the star disc. We have to turn the disc to imitate the 4 sounds made by the skeleton bagpipes.
Yeah.
This raises a clay oil tank, which we can't do anything with now.
Yeah. All of this technology is powered by fire. Is what it is. Yeah.
It's like the technology in the Goonies.
Yeah.
Down beneath Goonies land.
Yeah, we're in No Man's Wharf.
Yeah.
So back over is Moses. We 3D print this UAV thing at a fabricator, but we need to get some carbon and titanium. So we have to power up the recycling conveyor belt. This is just a make the top row match the bottom row switch puzzle.
Yep.
fine, just Resident Evil ass shit. And you have to tell the sorting machine to grab you some carbon and titanium.
Yep. So we can fabricate the new propeller and use this panel near the launch tube. So Moses is now in the UAV and is able to head towards Mac and Charlie over this sunken city here. We need to blow open a way to move forward. So we have to find and disarm these explosive charges. We use kind of like a pipe dream interface to do this, and then place them in the correct spots.
Yeah. Another moving very slowly out under the water.
Yes.
Thing. Yeah.
When we get here, we get Moses's flashback. In the apartment, it's the day of Hope's funeral, and he can't go. Yeah. He's not allowed.
He says bears aren't allowed to go. I mean, he probably could have, but Mac hates him. Mac is warming up a little bit as they go through this together.
Yeah, not in the flashback.
Right. In real time still, he's still calling Moses bear. Right.
Yes.
But just he agrees. I am to blame for Hope's death. I got swept out. She wouldn't have died if she didn't come after me. Get him very complex mourning.
Yeah. So Moses breaches into the cave with this huge Soviet submarine there. Its distress signal is what drew the cane here originally. The hatch is rigged with a grenade, so we have to disarm that trap.
Yeah.
We get in. The journal tells the story of the subcrew getting marooned down here and turning to cannibalism. This is where the Russian angle comes in. They found a way out of the sub and into the caves, and things got better for a little while. They learned to make alcohol. The writer of this was the last survivor, and he used the water purifier to make a generator for the transmitter.
Yeah.
Which is what they sent out that initially brought the cane here.
Dooming us all.
Yeah.
So there are some graves here. Some of the bodies have been buried. And because the troglodytes down here, the Zepanol, have been taking bodies to use their bones for shit, they're rigged up with a bear trap. You have to retrieve this with a synthetic arm. And there's also a chained dagger here. The chain from this can be used to secure the grenade on the hatch, so you can get inside the actual sub itself.
Yeah. A power distribution panel here has photos of escape suits that will be able to withstand the pressure outside. Mac charges the backup battery, and we use the skin from the synthetic arm to seal a pipe to open the door deeper into the sub.
Use every part of that arm.
You really I do like that they make you complicit in using this stuff. The next room has dead bodies with these missing limbs chained to pipes. This is a pantry because they were cannibals.
Yeah. Just coming in and taking off a little slice.
Yeah.
Yeah. The door to the escape suit storage has a radiation lock, but there is an unfired nuclear missile down here.
Yep.
But we needed the key to open it up.
Yeah. The captain's quarters has this hidden safe with no numbers and this altar with a few things on it. We combine this oscilloscope with the underwater microphone and use that to crack the safe. So listen in on it. The safe contains a flare, the nuke key, and a key for a puzzle on the nuke.
Yeah.
Ferrum's life support is failing really badly at this point. Reaches out to us. He's, hurry up, guys. I'm just a nervous system.
Yeah.
We open up the nuke. We use the dagger and the symbol key from the safe to undo the wires in the right order. And this gets Moses the warhead. Mac can then open the lead shielding, and the exposed warhead will open the door.
Yes.
But Moses won't go into the flooded room beyond it because he's scared of water.
Right. So he's stuck there for a little bit. Something needs to happen to Charlie. Charlie can use this flare that he found that Moses found to ignite the oil in the mechanism, which powers up the gong hammer. And this opens the door to a part of the ruins that nobody has ever seen before. Caliban is still going to be stating things with authority in there, but even it's just speculation.
Yeah, well, he's arrogant. It is an AI, but AIs in this are sentient.
Yes.
In this fiction.
Now we're in chapter 4, called We're All We've Got Left. Chapter 3 was 3 chapters in one. That was very long.
It's incredibly long.
Yeah. We're kind of on a rail here, though. We're in the last bits of puzzle stuff. And things are going to start escalating right away here, with Charlie going through the door into what appears to be a crypt. Caliban says, we need something from inside of this bone sarcophagus that is here. And when Charlie opens it up, this cloud of parasites flies up her nose and infects her. This is another form of the Veles.
Yep, she's been hit by the thing. The body in the sarcophagus wears this removable death mask, and it has a symbol that we can input into this nearby clock. And this gives you an order in which to arrange the icons on the spirit door leading out of the crypt to get out. This gets you to the uplift chamber, where body parts are weighed to determine which afterlife a person went to. So you have to balance these jars, but the 3 in present aren't enough. We're really kind of hitting all the ancient death rituals here.
Yeah. They're getting it figured out. Moses can weigh them. There is a scale in the captain's quarters there. And there's also a very puffy can of beans.
Yes.
This ends up being the missing ingredient. It is exactly the right weight to balance things out. And it is also the right
As seen
shape.
in the film 21 Grams. The weight of the soul is a can of puffy beans.
Yep.
Yeah.
But this balances them out. And we see, that going to the afterlife, what that is, this corpse pit opens up in the middle of the room and the body altars just tilt upward. Like, this is the ascension.
Yes.
People thought that they were going to the afterlife. And Mac kind of sardonically says, well, yeah, this is just a way to hide bodies from sight. Their afterlife was a lie. And this starts this conversation with Caliban, who says, well, that is something crazy for you to say because you believe that the Nexus is real. The Nexus being this afterlife that people are referred to, the singularity. When somebody has died, Mac will say, may your mind find the Nexus or something like that.
And he mourns when there are people who died before the technology came about. So he's like, they will never know heaven, essentially, in his religion. This is my favorite part of the game.
Yeah.
Individual moment. And Caliban says, you think that? I actually know the truth about that. Do you want to know? And Mac just says, don't tell me.
Yep.
And just lives the rest of his life in ignorance through this. And it's a really human thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a deft little bit of writing.
Yeah. And Caliban doesn't criticize him for it. Mm-mm. He doesn't call him small-minded or anything about it. It's not a sneering atheist kind of thing. The choice is actually respected.
Yeah. Even though Caliban is kind of stunting when he's like, I know the truth about your religion and I can unmake you. Caliban's a little shit.
Yeah.
But this, when he just says, no, I'd rather not know. And part of this is Caliban being practical.
Yeah.
He's still reliant on these people, but I really like that. I know.
Mm-hmm.
Good moment.
Yeah. So Charlie jumps down the corpse chute and into this catacomb and survives, but her chest starts hurting. This is when she notices the parasite growing inside of her. And we find out that Caliban knew that opening the sarcophagus would lead to an infection. He calls it a calculated risk, one that will almost surely end in her death.
Yep. Yeah, he's a shit. The next chamber has a big bug in a pen, and we see that the bodies are being processed with bug venom to turn into fertilizer. Yeah. The whole chamber is filled with these partially dissolved bodies.
Yeah.
Gross. So the idea here, the parallels are very obvious. Mm-hmm. They're happening. The ancient civilization is doing all the same things our current civilization is doing.
Yes.
It's using bodies as a product. It is fooling people with a fake afterlife.
Yes.
And stuff.
Fine.
Humanity does not change.
Nope. Even if it is
very bleak.
Yeah. Even if it is no longer recognizable as human.
Yes. Yeah.
You see this and you slice open the bug whose venom is being milked. And you get its venom glands, which is these two little nodules that need to be broken apart, and some undigested food. But when you try to leave, the troglodytes start showing up. They're closing in, just like Caliban predicted. And Charlie thinks that this is the end, and she apologizes to Mac for bringing them here. And he forgives her. He says, no, this isn't your fault. Yeah.
A very nice thing to say. This is 100% a little bit her fault.
Yeah.
Not trying to be too hard on Charlie. I understand wanting to get your kid back. But this is a real, to wander into this kind of thing.
There's a chain of causality here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to, and it ultimately is good because they're going to stop, whatever this apocalypse thing, but so Charlie wakes up later after a troglodyte places her on this bed in this small grassy chamber, and they're keeping her alive because of the parasites that are growing inside her.
Yeah.
The doors out of Charlie's prison have these handprints on them aligned with opposing parts of the circle. This is a clue to set the locking mechanisms on one of the doors to match the opposite alignment of the other doors.
Yeah. Locked,
unlocked.
get out.
Yeah. Yes. And right outside is a nursery where writhing troglodyte babies are nursed by these mothers. These creatures.
Maybe?
Yeah. These things milking, being milked.
Yeah. A lot of milking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is scary.
Uh-huh.
Like, I don't know. That works for me. I think that's spooky.
So what if a boob is food?
Yeah.
I am bugging. Yeah. So the only way forward is, through this rusty hatch door, through this rusty hatch on the floor. And, Charlie is despairing. She's in horrible pain. She thinks she's going to die. And, Mac kind of hits her with this refrain, something that he said, a couple of times when things seem insurmountable, saying, work the problem.
Yeah.
Right?
You're an
Which
engineer.
I really like. Yeah. Work the problem. Come on.
Yeah. So it's time for Mac to fix the elevator. The bear trap from the Russian grave lets him fix the door to the wheel mechanism here. A saw from the captain's quarters frees a stuck cog, and this vivisection tool from the ascension room has this coiled design that will help hold the elevator's braking mechanism together. I just had a moment of thinking about the person listening to this who hasn't played this game, and just hearing these puzzles described solved for 3 hours.
Yeah,
of just like then the doodad hits the bit that opens up the door that opens up the doodad.
There's no other
incredibly hypnotizing.
Yeah, there's no other mechanic to talk about.
Yeah.
Just there's this wide 3-person possibility space, and it's only by exploring thoroughly that you find all the things that you need to find kind of this unintuitive use for. Right?
Yeah. It almost makes me think when we do adventure games like this, we could talk about the puzzles generally.
Yeah,
and then do a couple standouts, but not play by play them, because it's hypnotizing me. And I went through this, and I'm slowly becoming hypnotized.
Yeah, trust me, I struggle with that when I put the notes together.
Yeah, it's difficult. Like I don't envy you. It's not. I'm not meant as a criticism.
Yeah,
it's just like the actual gameplay of this as a play-by-play is ludicrous.
Yeah. Well, like a whole half of this is cut out because getting these things is also a puzzle in and of itself, right? So I'm just like, I don't need to say and you find this and then it's used elsewhere. Like that's way too much.
Yeah,
right?
Picking up things off the ground, which you're doing because it's an adventure game.
Yeah.
It's an unusually dense adventure game.
Yeah. Yeah.
For that kind of shit. Like we're doing The Last Door is an adventure game. We're doing Toonstruck, which is a more traditional adventure game. It's not going to be like this. It's going to be like you go into a room and there are 3 things, and you combine 2 of them and they open up the dealie.
Yeah.
And then you go in and do some more talk.
I'm even streamlining that just to be like, just, okay, so this broadly is the story here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just tricky.
Yeah, it's a really tricky game to talk about that stuff with.
Yeah. The elevator breaks when it reaches the bottom. He's fixed it. He's gone down. There's this huge orrery. And this voice that Mac has been hearing speaks to him mockingly. This is Boynia, the Russian sub-captain, plugged into the collective consciousness that is caused by this virus, this germ. And this means Mac has also been infected with the Velez.
Mm-hmm. But not its corporeal form. So, a bug isn't growing inside of him.
He's got the mind virus part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very creepy when he talks like this, his eyes roll back, which is a universal sign for, oh no, when it comes to a person speaking. Yeah. So, here's this laughing Russian guy, talking to us. He'll eventually be pretty important here. But you go beyond this place to an aqueduct that has a boat. This is held in place by a scorpion creature that is a beast of burden, to lift the sluice gate. And it's starving, like it's all emaciated. You have to draw it forward to lift the gate by using the undigested food to make him run forward. And then one of the venom globules will dissolve the bars for the controls.
Yeah. As the boat travels down this aqueduct, Mac prays to Kane for protection. And again, nice moment. The boat passes by active troglodytes performing their rituals.
Yeah.
This little cutscene thing. Someone tried opening this barred window with their belt that we find, and we finished the job using a femur from Charlie's chamber, which we grab for leverage. And we pass under a chamber where the troglodytes are vivisecting people and cavorting.
Yeah.
Little dances and jigs.
This is this is probably the grossest thing, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, you're down in this ditch and you're like, oh, like, man, I'm pretty sure there's some blood in this water. Caliban does this little, percentage thing, no, there's a very good chance that is just blood because, using my environmental scans, this is where the runoff from the sacrifices goes. So
really gross.
Mac is, belly button deep in this just straight up blood.
Yeah, very disgusting.
Yeah.
We come out in the cell occupied by Colin Frick, a molecular biologist. And he's naked and he's slamming his head against the wall.
Still alive?
Here.
Still alive?
Yep. You can't really die when you have this stuff already up. His PDA reveals that he's a fraud who joined Kane on false pretenses to avoid his parents putting him through the suicide lottery.
Yeah, another dystopian concept. So the idea being, if just a family can take their fail son, or just somebody who otherwise will not be productive enough and kill them, get a chance to kill them to be rewarded the gross total of what the Kane Corporation would pay over their lifetime to support them.
Yep, you get a lump sum.
Yeah.
Instead of, so if you have a kid who's going to be on the dole, you get all the dole at once.
Yes.
But the kid just dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nasty.
I would not vote for this.
No.
If it was up, as a referendum.
Yeah.
I'm reading this and shaking my head so people know I don't agree.
Exactly. I've been posting about it. I just, fewer suicide lotteries online. And can we get some diversity in the suicide lotteries? While we're there, can we get some ladies on the suicide lottery board? Please?
Yeah. We have to prop it up at all costs, but
yeah.
Oh, man.
So the one way out of here is guarded by this huge bug. And there's a dead android lying near the door, so we use the nuke's containment shield to cover its exposed parts and then eject its head core, which causes an explosion.
Yeah.
There.
And this takes us to this is a flashback,
Yes.
So this is after the funeral, after the death, the apartment that we've been in is in disrepair, right? They're being evicted. And there's all this mail, these piled up bills, in addition to Mac's salvage license being revoked. They're at the end of the road.
Yep. In the present, the explosion killed the bug and opened up a wider path, but also alerted the hive. So we passed through this bone orchard, which is full of these bone sculptures of things from Bonia's memories of the surface. This is fucking great. What a cool idea. Weird pull that this reminded me of. Spencer Krug, the guy from Wolf Parade and Sunset Rubdown, he has a Patreon. At a certain level, you get fiction that he's written. And I'd been kind of saving it up. I haven't been reading it as I got it, but I was killing time while getting my internet working, and I just happened to have one of the envelopes there.
Okay.
So I busted out a short story called The Thinning Snake, and it reminded me a lot of this. And it's really fucking good. Yeah. I don't know why I waited so long. It's actually really good. And I hope someday he publishes stuff. Yeah. Because it's a great, scary short story.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the Russians getting trapped down here was a huge boon for the Zepanol, right? Because they are, their mythology is that they were denied the surface. They were sent down here by the old gods and found new ones. And these Russians coming down, bolstered by the fact that this this captain is a huge Christian, which wasn't the done thing in the Soviet Union. Brought that down with him, but also brought all of these memories of the surface. So they are trying to recreate the surface in this sculpture gallery, including a horse that is made out of human bones. Owns.
Yeah, it's really good. And that is why there is this, kind of mixed grill of time period stuff.
Yes.
Because of this collective memory that is caused by this virus germ bacteria thing, the troglodytes can get this information from the future as well, and from everyone can get everything from anything that's down here.
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Yeah.
Beyond this is a maze that we cannot solve. We kind of run around and it leads us back to the entrance. So we switch characters because this isn't going to work.
Right. So we go over to Charlie, who is still writhing around, and then go back to Moses, who is still standing, facing the fear of his water. He's facing the fear of water. He's opened the nuke door, but was frozen at the the flooded underwater area, and Farhan is very near to the edge of death, is kind of returning the favor from earlier. Moses had given him a pep talk to say, like, no, like your story isn't over. Farhan gives that back to him, saying, like, no, like you're a strong bear, you're a smart bear, this isn't the end for you, you can go,
that's
and
nice.
and this gets him to go and swim through the lower level of the sub.
Yeah, which is full of dead bodies, of course. The door to the back of the ship is clogged with dead bodies. So we need to use the remaining venom ball to dissolve all these bodies. And then power up the sub's silent running battery in order to reach the lower decks where the suits would be. The android's power core does the job for this. There's only one free escape suit, however. And the only way to get it open, is to open the surface hatch. And Mac warns Moses that's going to be dangerous. And Mac is feeling reflective at this point, apologizes for blaming him for Hope's death.
Yeah.
Near the end of his life, he's like, I shouldn't be mad at this bear.
Right. It's a little. So as Moses, you turn the valve, and the service hatch on a submarine opens up the entire bottom of it. And the contents of the sub fall out, and Moses ends up pinned. His lower half of his body ends up pinned, near where the suit landed. And Farhan's last act is to encourage Moses to crawl forward to put the suit into the quantum storage drive so the others can use it. Saying, I know you would give everything for her, so give everything.
Yeah, it's very sweet.
Yeah.
Moses crawls forward and he tears himself in half. Touches the suit, it warps out, and Moses has died. Possibly. There's a post-credits thing.
Yeah.
Very dramatic cutscene of Matt crying at this.
Yes.
My dude has had a rough day.
Yeah.
Like everyone has.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like take Mac's side over this instead of Charlie. Like I kind of consider him the main character, given that he's the one who doesn't know the twist.
Yeah.
Going in this, and he has the completed arc with Moses. There. I'm not unsympathetic to Charlie. During the situation as well, but like Jesus Christ, like getting absolutely confronted with everything.
Yes.
Every relationship and every structure in your life being false or crumbling.
Yeah.
In front of you.
It's quite a bit.
Yeah.
I would consider Mac to be the main character here, just because we know everything he knows where we do not know everything Charlie knows for the whole time. Yeah. So the escape suit, when we analyze it, has this adrenaline pack attached. It's like a stim pack. And Charlie uses this. We've been carrying around this unconscious scrubber for most of the game.
There's a little goblin in our pocket.
Little sleepy boy. You can use this to revive the scrubber, and it will eat all the rust off of this hatch that was blocking the way out of the nursery room, so she can get down there. When she jumps down, slides down the chute and lands painfully, really injures herself, puts her out of commission. But she does, this does eject into the room, into the tunnel where Mac is.
Yes. Charlie is bleeding internally and screaming now. And the performance really sells this. It's good.
Yeah.
Caliban enables her plug suit shock capabilities. And we have to observe her abdomen and shock the quadrant that the parasites are active in.
Yeah.
To all four dead. This is a little bit like the fly swatting game from Mario Paint.
Yeah.
The body horror version of it. And she apologizes to Mac.
Yeah.
And he understands. He's like, they let you hear her. What else were you going to do?
God damn.
He understands. That's a great line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great line.
Yeah. And this takes us into chapter 5. Charlie's going to be unconscious for the rest of the game.
And this is our end. This is a shorter chapter.
Yes. This is To Be Still. Mac puts Charlie into the escape suit, and carries her, saying, we're going to get you out of here. And the maze can be solved now that Charlie is down here. Caliban can use echolocation basically to solve the maze. So there's a ping for what exit we need to go down.
Yes. We reach the end, and Bonya says that the chanting that we hear is the ascension starting. The one path to get something into the sea is this lighthouse to make our way up, but it's blocked by revelers who will tear us apart.
Yes.
Because they're going to do the ascension and take over, get revenge on the old gods, or the new gods, or what have you.
Yeah. So they're going to go up to the surface and start teaching new forms of violence, or so we think. Bonya says, like, hey, don't run for the lighthouse. You'll be ripped from limb. I need you to come see me. So we go over to the side room, and Matt goes through, and suddenly he is in this kind of like shifting, like surgic looking cathedral that is covered in blood, and Bonya has represented himself as Christ on the cross, speaking to him.
Like breathing.
Yeah.
It's a live Christ on the cross. Something in a lively Christ.
Yes.
And as we find out, he was a Christian. He tried, teaching the troglodytes the good news here, and they did not like it. They took it for a little bit, and then eventually rejected it as a contagion.
Yes. And Kane's arrival down here when they, built the alpha base, caused them to reinterpret their prophecies. Instead of ascending themselves, what they are going to do is release the Veles onto the surface, and through that cleanse the people and get revenge on the old gods.
Yes. So Bonya's plan is to use this nuke to wipe them all out.
Right.
But there won't be time for Mac to save himself. And he bargains. He says, okay, that's fair. Can I get a chance to get Charlie to the lighthouse?
Yeah.
Can I save my wife here? And when this happens, we see Bonya's true form. He was basically presenting as this because it's something he thought we would be comfortable with.
Yeah.
But he is actually this horrible homunculus thing. Reminds me a lot of some of the Haster, like the blob Haster a little bit.
Yeah. Kind of mixed with the thing at the end of I Have No Mouth and I'm a Scream.
Yes.
Mixed with a fetus. It's real gnarly.
Yeah. It's great.
It says, please give me the unholy fire. Just let me unleash this. So Bonya draws the revelers away. We can get to the lighthouse. But because nothing can work, the ejector pod, this one mechanism that they had made to send things to the surface, no longer functions. And Caliban says, well, there are other ways to get her out, like blowing open the top of the tower. Like these clear walls at the top of this lighthouse look like glass, and it kind of functions like that. All you have to do is find a way to open it up.
So Mac, at this point, he demands that Caliban play the rest of the recording of Hope. And we get her last memory, of Moses being pulled in the ocean. She jumped in to save him.
Yeah.
Which we knew, but it's also just a sad, poignant thing.
Yeah. And it's her remembering all of these details, and then he realizes, oh, like that functionally is her. Like this isn't just like a genetic match or anything like that. Like there is continuity in this. And that's where some of the Soma stuff comes. And, he's able to, his daughter's been reborn. It's this miracle at the end of things, as long as Yellowleaf sticks to their word. But yeah.
Yes. Which they're also shitty because this is a bleak game. We don't know that necessarily they will.
Yeah.
The researcher asked Hope what she wants to be when she grows up. And she said, a captain, an engineer, something very brave.
Yeah.
Kind of inspiring her father.
Yeah. All three of the characters.
Yes.
Moses being the brave one, the engineer, the captain. Sees them all as heroes.
Yeah. Sweet. So we put the grenade in the hatch into the cracked glass of the wall. And Max says, Charlie doesn't have to be sorry. Our daughter is back because of you. The explosion goes off. Charlie's suit carries her all the way to the surface.
Yeah. And
we get our ending here. An awake Charlie looks out at the sunset over the ocean. Yellowleaf Chopper is here to rescue her. So they might keep their word. And then we get credits. And right after the credits, Moses washes up on the beach, the half of Moses that's still around.
Yes.
So the shaved bear, scary little sweetheart might live.
Maybe. Possibly.
Yeah.
And like the threat has been like, this is probably the best ending that could happen here. You know, like Mac is dead. So we get the trading, soul for a soul trading thing going on here, but the Zeeb Hanal have been neutralized, right? The nuke has gone off. They're
Which
gone.
never, the plan, Boynez's plan to do this never would have worked if we hadn't come here. And if he had never started his plan, it would never have brought Kane here. They would never reevaluate it. It's a big pileup of like causality for this stuff, but this is a happy ending for it. Apparently that is a big contrast between the previous games where it just ends on like things are bleaker than shit. There is redemption and forgiveness and stuff in this ending.
And Caliban's on the surface now, and Caliban has all this information that in the hands of Yellowleaf could be used to undo Kane. Something that we know is terrible.
The game spends a lot of time teaching us. It's all good. I was exhausted at the end of it though, in a way that is semi-derogatory. It's thinking about this with Soma is really interesting. It doesn't get into the kind of specific Soma themes in the end, but when I think about them in terms of which one was more effective at delivering its message, I think Soma is because of focus. And I know I talk about focus a lot, and there are people for whom like I just want the messiest story possible. Like ask as many questions as possibly exist. My joy in or somebody can say, my joy in experiencing media is to have these questions raised.
To have it wash over.
Yes. And that's what this game is like. You get a lot of those interesting and good questions raised and washed over you. Like there's a lot of things this is trying to say about, and successfully, asking questions about faith and the nature of humanity and how we are stuck in these cycles. And how we will other civilizations that do the same thing that we do.
Yes.
There's a lot there that's really interesting. It doesn't break my heart the way that like Soma does. And it doesn't haunt me. Those questions don't haunt me because of partly just because of light sprinkling of puzzles. Like between times to consider this stuff, I was always trying to find two ways to open a door. And the other thing just being that I spent so much time on these other little detail bits that like it just kind of didn't touch my heart as hard as I wanted it to. Despite like when I think about the stuff, it's all interesting, good philosophical stuff that should hit that heartbreak part that I want. It's kind of damning it a little bit. I don't want to damn it because I liked it and all that stuff I think was really good. It's hard to push past like literal exhaustion, and it's hard to argue if you're just not, feeling, if you're not having the emotional response to this you want to have. I guess. I got it for the characters in this more than I did in Soma, but the idea is way less.
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah. I think that this is a little bit, I like this a little bit more than you, particularly because I think I'm just warmer on the puzzles and the diffuseness, the lack of focus is a little bit less of a bugbear for me, but I definitely agree. This is over-engineered, right?
Yeah.
And I get a little bit of a sense that, it's a thing that happens. This is not a rookie studio. They've been, by the time they made this, they've been operating for a decade. But there's a thing that happens, with creators, which is like, this might be my last chance to say everything that I need to say. There's probably like 3 good games worth of ideas in this.
100%. This feels like a first game in that respect. Like I need to get everything out because I might not get another chance. But you have this big, beautiful, rich world that I think would transfer really well even to other mediums. Like they've done such a good job with the lore and world building of this that like, if this game came out, if they didn't hit all these ideas here, like put out a book. Like I would kickstart a tabletop setting based on this. I understand not everybody's interested in the same shit I am. I'm just saying that like it doesn't have to be wasted effort.
No.
Just because you can't all cram into the game, because at least for me, it did detriment the product a little bit in the experience. Not hugely, but a little bit.
Yeah. And typical like defensiveness, like, oh, we say this is too long because we're playing on a deadline, et cetera. Like pacing is distinct from length. And there were just a lot of times where, again, you get that like, oh, you think you're through the line just by the way it is doling out information, by the way it's doling out tasks, and oops, there's more to the book than you thought there was. You get to a different part of the line. It's like I just get a sense of being sold past the close. And yeah, it's something where I've, have to ding it, but I don't feel great about it. But like,
There's so much fucking heart in this. Like, there's so much
Yeah.
heart and smart world building and like very, crafty writing and stuff. It ends up as an experience not working and like not working as well as it could.
Yeah.
And that's a thing where, part of this is me making up a guy, where the people who get mad at us for complaining about length as a thing. I would like to make a blanket statement. Rest assured, when we do that, we are talking about pacing.
Yes.
Like, we're not dopes. We know.
I know how to budget my time.
We know how to budget our time. We know how to, we've been doing this for a long time. This is, we also know stories and media, and get a feeling for when something is just like, oh, this is just too long versus this is, like you said, selling past the close.
Yeah.
And this game does sell past the close. It's really interesting to do this next to The Last Door, which both seasons of that I really love. And I feel like The Last Door is very specifically doesn't do that.
Yes.
Not necessarily putting a qualitative difference between them because it's a very different product with very different aims. But that game is 4 hours. It's like watching two movies.
Yeah.
And it feels very much like it's asking a bunch of questions and kind of giving you this atmosphere and then leaving you wanting more. Leaving you in that state of just kind of like, yeah, like that's cool. Like if they announced The Last Door season 3 tomorrow, I'd be into playing it.
Oh yeah.
Right now I'm going to be interested to see what this team does next. I want to see what the next thing is in the Stasis universe, but it might be a thing where like, I don't know if I necessarily want to play that with my hands.
Yeah.
That might be a let's play or something for that, or like a cuts, a dialogue compilation or some other way to experience that story and everything without running into 40 doors that are locked in 3 different ways.
Yeah. This is going way back to the beginning of the show, but like, when talking about like the structure of this or the, the pacing problems, it's real big, the longest journey problems.
Yes. Yeah.
And, I made this point at the beginning when we were first talking about the pacing problems that this has, which is like, neither a horror story nor an adventure game should be longer than 10 hours. That's a little bit glib. It's just, it's drawing a hard line. The more applicable thing is to say that neither horror nor graphical adventure games are well served by longevity.
Yes. Yeah. It's also the kind of a microcosm of a general video game thing.
Yeah.
Too, where it's like, we were talking about this in the Slack recently with regards to the new game from the Persona team and people being like, I like those games, but those are always 120 hours. And like War and Peace takes you 40 hours to read. A lot of times these games are not trying to be as focused on narrative as that, but there is a weird hubris to game length sometimes, I think, when in a narrative focused thing. It's pretty rare that I play the games where the narrative really, really hits me, tend to have comparable lengths to reading a book or watching a movie. They don't have these double-digit run times.
Yes.
Like when I think about all of the games that have touched my heart, I think about, like the longest one is probably Disco Elysium.
Yeah.
And that's, or like, Planescape Torment is also kind of long there, but it's also that could have stuff cut, but I think about the games that, you think about your, What Remains of Edith Finch.
Yeah.
You think about your Somas, you think about your Pentiments, you think about your Cerbrantes. All of these things they're long. And even at that length, they do the pacing tricks that other mediums do. Like one of the reasons why this feels so nitty gritty is because it takes place in real time.
Yeah.
You are always have to get through that door and stuff. Whereas like you play Pentiment, I'm very grateful for the time skips in that.
Yes.
We can focus on the narrative important stuff. It's not saying I need in every game, but if a game is narratively important, that is going to serve the narrative of it. Very, very rare that you can pull off the very strong narrative that has an epic length.
Right.
Kind of thing. And I wish fewer devs would try. Like it ends up being a little bit frustrating. Here,
and just and like, this is very glib to say, but like, oh man, you did so much more work than you needed to. Oh, you didn't need to do that.
No, or you could have meted that out.
Yeah.
I gladly would have, again, we talk about how this has 4 or 5 really good ideas for horror video games that have weighty philosophical questions. Met those out. I would have gladly played those.
Yeah.
This could have been a studio like the Until Dawn people.
Yeah.
Where like, I'm like looking forward to what they do every time because they're paced really well. It's a really entertaining experience where you can get whatever kind of heady stuff you're going to get. And those are less cerebral than this, but you can get whatever you're going to get out of it, thinky wise or heart wise, and move on from it. You're not constantly kind of being like, head faked.
Yeah.
It's it ended up being a little bit more frustrating than I wanted it to be, while also every individual component part is awesome.
Yeah. I'm super happy that I played it, right?
Yeah.
Like this has clued me into a developer that I didn't otherwise, know a lot about. I knew about Stasis, but sci-fi horror is kind of iffy for me. So it's just, wasn't something I was going to, clamoring to play. But now I'm curious. I might stream Stasis or Kane at some point, right?
Yeah. I looked up what happens in those games because of the strength of this. I wanted to know those stories and get those concepts.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Complicated feelings on a game that I am happy that I played and am really happy that we discussed.
Yeah. Generally more positive than negative.
Yes.
Yeah. So big thanks to Jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you are listening to this and you are a marginalized creator of any kind and you have a product or a project you'd like us to shout out, please send me an email at Gary@Duckfeed.tv. Nobody in the queue right now, so it's a short line. Include your pronouns, pitch, links, pronunciation, anything that might be useful. And we'd be happy to do that. And if you want to produce a game like Jack of all trades did, you can do so at patreon.com/DuckFeed.tv.
Yeah. It's there in the store tab is where that is. We moved that to make it a little bit easier using Patreon's new features there. If you want to write in about Stasis, Bone Totem, or our other games or episodes that are coming out here for Horror Month, which are The Last Door Season 1, horror games at the arcade, that's kind of a special topics episode that we're doing, or a premium episode, which is Crow Country. You can go to duckfeed.tv/contact and write in by October the 15th.
Yeah, the horror at the arcade game episode will be, it's like a hybrid between our old topics episode and our arcade episodes where we do that. Because I was doing a little bit of research on that, and like without just listing a bunch of games that have skeletons in them, there are definitely some outliers there, but we were going to go deep on at least a couple games each.
Yeah.
That we've done. Next month's games, as alluded to before, is Toonstruck. Is the first one. Second one is Balatro. And the third one, the premium episode for that month is Diablo 2. They're the re-Diablerized version.
Resurrection or whatever.
Resurrection, whatever the cute thing they called it.
Yes.
So that means everybody's going to get the generalities. Only patrons get the full episode. You do so by becoming a patron at $5 a month. Patreon.com/DuckFeedTV.
For the Balatro episode, Gary, the mobile version that is coming out, will that suffice?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, my understanding is that is a great port.
Okay.
And you can do all the stuff in it.
Yeah.
Different control scheme, so like it might be a thing where I know that you can accidentally sell things.
Okay.
A little bit easier in the mobile version, which seems bad. And that's going to be, for people who are saying this to themselves, that will be a weird short episode.
Yeah.
I love that game. I have a lot to say about it, but there's no narrative.
Yeah.
We're making space for Diablo 2, which is a spicy meatball, and Winter WRPG, which is taking up the whole month and is a very spicy meatball.
Yes. Yeah. I was just curious because I have the Switch one, but I don't want to have to keep another device charged up. So.
Yeah, I would have, if it had come out on mobile when I got into it, I would have just played it on my phone.
Yeah.
I just happened to play, 100% on Switch.
100%. Wow.
I got, I didn't do all the achievements, I guess. I didn't do all the challenges. So I didn't 100%. I got the highest stake difficulty on all the decks.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But so we alluded to those premium episodes. At that $5 tier, you get whole bonus shows as well as all of the premium episodes we have done up to that point. We think it's good value. If you can't do that, you can always rate and review us or subscribe on your podcast directory of choice. Apple Podcasts. I think there's like a review thing on Spotify. There are reviews on Podcast Addict. All of that helps us out. Helps raise our visibility.
Yeah, talking about us as well. Tell your friends. We really appreciate that. And join us in thanking Gwen, our producer.
Thank you, Gwen.
Yeah. And I think that's about it.
I think so.
What do they watch out for until next time?
Watch out for that last 15% of skin because it's a doozy.